Hey. I know.
Hey, everyone.
Hello,
It's like
Voidwalkers.
working.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, back for another one, aren't we?
Yep.
Delayed
here for
shoulder
another-
motion.
I don't even know what's going on. Here for another episode of
Kaneki
The
dance.
Confabulator.
Confabulators.
Confabulators.
Look,
You've just given up trying to sync it up.
I didn't expect it that time, so I just kind of froze.
Wait a second, I got an idea. Okay, we can do the old barbershop thing.
Don't.
So like confab, and then we all join together. So like confab.
I don't want to sing.
Which one am I? Am I
don't wanna
the
sing. I don't know.
am I the middle or am I the falsetto?
I'm not warmed up enough for singing.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, there goes
But
that plan.
I know. I don't know how beautiful we would be at that, but you know what is beautiful? Our topic today. And our topic is beauty and horror. So that's lovely.
Which I wanna start right off the bat and ask you both a little bit like those like brain tests with word association. What is the absolute first thing you think of when somebody's with that? What is the absolute first thing you think of when you hear the phrase beauty and horror?
I got bad recency bias right now, so right now I'm thinking all of those fucking shots in Suspiria.
Hey, it works. It works.
I think of a woman, and that woman is symbolic of feminism gone inside out.
Okay. Deep.
That's like the first thing I think of.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, it might have a little bias to me as well, which we'll get to, but that's what I think of. What about you, Liz?
I mean, the very first, if we're going to go just the first image that came to mind, it was a rose.
Mm.
So I guess, rose, thorns, rose, also common image of beauty. So.
Every rose has its thorn.
Yeah. It certainly was not the Seamus, who was beside me being, here we go.
Actually, now that I think of it,
although you are beautiful. You are a beautiful potato, Seamus.
it's not the first thing I thought of on the prompt, but I have been having this thought throughout the week about beauty and horror, and a metaphor keeps coming to mind of all the, like, particularly like the juxtaposition of beauty and horror is that the thing they always say about Satan and Lucifer, like, everyone like normally thinks of the devil as like, oh yeah, the devil is the guy, the red guy with the horns and all this, that, and the other thing. But then I always remember, well, like classically, the devil is actually supposed to be the most beautiful of the archangels, and
Sure.
that is like that is supposed to be like part of the contrast and the deception of, like, the deception laying within, like, the superficiality of the beauty and then the depth of the evil that lurks beneath.
Yeah. The menace.
And I think
Kind
we'll
of
cover
a
some of that as we
vanity.
go along tonight.
Yeah, kind of a vanity meets pride.
Yeah.
Well, similar words, but I find vanity to be more beauty based and pride to be more egotistical based.
Does that mean the devil's
Yeah.
a honeypot?
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Devil's got succubi and incubi on hand, so why not?
If the shoe fits.
Yeah.
So now, beauty in horror.
Mm.
I feel like this is a very loaded topic because it's not just like when we were discussing and like kind of brainstorming. It's not just there's beauty thematically,
Yeah.
in terms of like the actual theme of beauty in storytelling and how it's approached a lot of times in horror. But then to me, what struck me when we were like kind of doing like our early, because this was one of the earlier ideas for episodes we had, actually. This was on like some of the first brainstorm lists. I think I want to,
Yeah.
like, first or second times around on the brainstorming list, is for me what stood out is more just like seeing horror, but seeing beauty in horror, like aesthetically almost.
Yeah.
Like, and for me, like atmosphere and how something can be horrifying and have a beauty to it in the way that it's composed, and that to me really stood out. I know at the time I think I was thinking of like Silent Hill and atmosphere.
Ooh.
So beauty is more like an atmosphere.
Yeah. Yeah, it can have
So-
an atmosphere. I think it kind of depends on where it's set. And what I mean is sometimes it might be like at a like rave, or it might be in the woods for some reason or something like that. Usually though they're in the city. Usually they're surrounded by city landscape in some fashion. But not always, most of the time though.
Yeah.
And I feel like that might stem from the fact that a lot of beauty involves things that are discussed, such as sexism, racism, sexuality, patriarchal things, stuff like that. You know, beauty standards. What does it mean to be beautiful? You know, and how extreme you get with it. How hard and high do you turn that volume up?
Yeah.
You know, it's a very fascinating set of, what's the word I want to use? It's a very interesting set of topics to deal with, right? Themes, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. A lot nests under it
yeah, oftentimes.
or nests within it. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think that part of that, well, almost all of them involve women as either the protagonist or the villain or both. It's not common to see men in those as like a core focus. One that I want to point to that does have men involved pretty deeply is American Psycho. American
Yeah.
Psycho.
Yeah.
So that movie and book in particular revolves around Patrick Bateman and his struggles with things like vanity, with keeping up certain appearances, all in the 80s, because secretly he's gay. And he kind of knows it. He doesn't want it out, right? And so a lot of his frustrations stem from that. But he also has absurd beauty standards for himself and for others, especially women, who tend to be his victims. And it's all about appearances. It's all about the patriarchal setup of the company Pearson Pierce, and just how he kind of just runs roughshod while getting away with everything. In part because I believe it's mentioned that his father's in charge of the company, but also just where he stands in life and the fact that he can just do whatever he wants practically, right? And the funny thing is that we don't even know if all the kills that he does are real, because a lot of things in the movie, I can't really speak for the book, but for the movie, we don't know what's real and what's not. We just have his perspective and what we think might be real, which is what he thinks is real.
Yeah.
But if everything is real, then he killed a lot of people, uh, and he got away with it. Because his lawyer came up and was like, "Hey, I don't know what you're talking about, sir. Why don't you go back
Yeah.
and have fun with your friends?"
Yep.
Which, by the way, if that lawyer genuinely got him off of all those murders, which includes like blowing up cop cars and killing all sorts of cops and stuff, that's a scary lawyer.
Yeah, that is a lawyer I would not want to find out. Like, if you were ever in a courtroom, you would not want to find out that lawyer was for the other side.
Yeah.
I think that would be one where it's like, and speaking on behalf of such and such party, it's just, at that point it'd just be like, I give up. I give up.
The only one that I don't necessarily think he killed was Paul Allen. Mm-hmm. I think he killed all the women in that, but I don't think he killed Paul Allen. And I think that also leans into the beauty standards and the stance of patriarchy at the time, how men view women, in a way also how gay men can be sexist and misogynistic toward women. You don't have to be attracted to women to be misogynistic to women. You could be a woman and be misogynistic to women.
Well, and this country's roots are in a patriarchal society, so it's kind of like, look, folks, we've come a long way, but the reality is this is the history of this country.
Yeah,
is a male-dominated society, and so, again, huge strides forward, but that doesn't change the fact that that's more deeply rooted.
Yeah.
It's the same way when you do find matriarchal societies that have been that way for, hundreds of years, then you see a different set of behaviors in the way people just, you see it the same way. It's just deeply rooted in a more matriarchal focus than it is in a patriarchal focus.
Yeah. But yeah, I found that with a lot of the beauty and horror that I looked into, a lot of it revolved around feminism, sexism. There were bits and pieces of racism, colorism, stuff like that. But like the core things were like feminism, sexism, and women in society and how they're treated generally. I don't know what you think in that regard, though. I'd be interested to hear. Obviously.
I mean, I definitely saw that in a lot of it. I kind of, when I started thinking about, like, what am I going to look at, what do I want to look at to kind of get myself prepped for this episode, I ended up doing a lot of Googling of, like, what are movies people consider, like, horror movies that people consider beautiful. And it also ended up bringing me to also just visually striking, which ended up being a lot of shared commonalities. American Psycho shows up a lot. Of course, on the list, Suspiria, both the old and the newer one, and a few others, like Annihilation showed up on some. So, and coincidentally, a lot of those are, right off the top of my head, are female-led or female-centric stories, exception American Psycho. But then you also would find ones like Dracula. What was the other one? There was a few others, like The Shining showed up on on these lists too for visually striking. So it was interesting to me because there were kind of two sides to it. There was definitely, I would say, almost the most balanced approach. Often felt, and the other thing that stood out to me, and I should have realized it before, but it's that Gothic horror really falls into the beauty and horror theme, because Gothic horror loves to showcase a sort of haunting beauty to these nefarious things. I mean, I finally watched Crimson Peak.
What'd you think?
And that was very rich in that visualization.
Yeah.
Definitely really interesting. oh, frustrating when you realize how disadvantaged she is,
Hmm.
in the home, and how fucked up that house is and the people are in it. Also, it was very unexpected was kind of the expectation that the ghosts were going to be the monsters of it when really they were just the messengers.
Yeah.
But I really liked that. It was an element of like, here's a supernatural element, but instead of, we're going to kind of subvert ourselves because the supernatural element is creating all of this tension, but the real monsters are the people
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
in the house.
and you see why it did so bad in America when I brought that up before, where
Yeah.
the trailer in America was very different than the European one, which the European one gave you what you watched.
Yeah, it gave you more of an element of this is more than just ghosts.
Yeah, it's gothic romance. It's very tropey.
Exactly, yeah. It is. It is very, very gothic romance in that regard. And it was just, and again, it's not everything is what it seems.
Yeah.
The house has ghosts in it and everything. But yeah, that when the ultimate conclusion is that these ghosts weren't the problem. It was what they were telling her.
Yeah.
Which is they were trying to warn her, and yes, they were creepers about it. That's what happened. It's kind of going with a similar, not quite the scale of like The Grudge, but an element of the ghosts are left in kind of the state of where they were emotionally.
Mhm.
So that was very interesting. Jessica Chastain plays creepy sister.
Yep.
On a whole different level. Also, though I do have to point out that the movie just totally threw me when, the beginning, I can't remember the main character's name, but that when her father walks on screen and I just went, Bobby!
Yep.
It's Bobby! I was like, all I could think anytime he was on
like
screen.
Supernatural Bobby?
Yes!
Oh
yes!
my god!
Yes! Played by Supernatural Bobby Singer, except not the actor's name, and my brain is just immediately dropping it right now. But yes, and he actually does an excellent job. I will say that. It's one of those things where it's like, it's such a small role, but he does such a good job at not being the character we know him for,
Yeah.
that so many of us know him for. And yet there's such a commonality between Crimson Peak and Supernatural because, Supernatural literally deals with supernatural, and gothic horror tends to have supernatural. So there's a lot of commonalities where you almost go, is this going to feel like it's just Bobby, but in a different setting? And it's like, no, this actually felt like a different character.
Yeah.
Who was very similar to Bobby, but still very much not the same. So I actually have to give credit, as that was very well done, actor. Well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting. It was interesting because then I had also watched the Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula.
Yeah.
As well, the Gary Oldman one. So I finally saw that one. And
it's a very tragic story versus the usual portrayals, isn't it?
Yes, and definitely saw like how that was a huge inspiration to the Castlevania show and everything, and Castlevania's approach to Dracula. They wanted a much more like, he's a monster, but he's a tragic monster,
And then they bring the monster back around with Nosferatu.
Oh yeah,
they really, really do. Yeah.
Man.
It was funny, actually. A weird thing I realized in prepping for this episode was how much beauty and horror tends to also bring vampires in.
Yeah. Carmilla is one that I want to give a shout out to. And I also want to point to a lot of LGBTQ representation in beauty and horror as well. Specifically, a lot of lesbian portrayals.
Yeah.
Which, so Carmilla, I want to point to that one in particular because it was one of the OG stories, and it always comes back over and over and over again. The book I can think of most recently, other than like the reprints of Carmilla, would be Hungerstone, which I'm trying to remember who that was by. Let me look. Hungerstone was by Kate Dunn, Dunn. Or Cat Dunn, I'm sorry. But yeah, very, very fascinating retelling of Carmilla. So I
forget, does
wanted to make sure
Carmilla
that
predate Dracula? Does Carmilla predate
yes,
Frank? Okay. Okay. I almost said
Carmilla
Francis Ford
predates
instead of Bram Stoker.
Dracula,
Okay.
but I think Vampire predates
Both of them?
Carmilla, but I'm not
Okay.
sure.
I feel like Vampire is what I've always
Definitely.
heard of as the first vampire novel, so.
I believe so because it's Polidori writing about Lord Byron and how much of a prick he is.
There's a whole.
Yeah.
Basically,
Is that like my operating interpretation of Frankenstein being Mary Shelley, basically saying that under no circumstances should Percy Shelley or Lord Byron ever be allowed to be fathers?
yeah. But
I mean, it's kind of gothic horror as used to warn people about people.
It's like,
but Carmilla
I am with my
is
husband all the time and his best friend, and under no circumstances should either of these men ever be left in charge of a child. It will go bad.
I mean,
You know what?
that's probably foresight.
Okay, bear with me. This was something y'all just made me think of, with the whole like warning about people, and bear with me. Candyman,
Mm-hmm.
which I
Yep.
also finally watched, the Tony Todd Candyman, in its own way,
Mm-hmm.
I think is a modern gothic horror.
I can
Okay.
see that. Yeah.
It does not have the gothic setting, but the storytelling. I think of, because it definitely stood out to me. You had told me, Dave, like back when we first like brought it up about the whole like Tony Todd's "Be My Victim," and there is a sort of, and when you consider that
A Victorian
the character
mentality?
he plays is, well, the character he plays
Mhm.
is from hundreds of years ago.
Mhm.
You know, back during, you know, do they say
Slavery
I think if
times.
it's 17 or 8, it's slavery time. So it could be like late 1700s. It could be anywhere in like the first half of the 1800s, really, because it predates, you know, really predates abolition, the abolitionists and the Civil War. So he's got that sort of Regency Victorian, because Victorian would have been 1860s.
Yeah.
But he's got that tonal mentality in the way that he speaks, and that it's a combination of he's hunting, but he's also wooing
Yeah.
this woman. And it just occurred to me that I'm like, it's completely setting wise, it is not gothic in this traditional sense, but in a way it still is. There's this element of the castle, of the ominous, even when she's going through and looking at the graffiti on the walls and kind of realizing, you know, there's a sort of, because there is a kind of, there's an art to, you know, a lot of, like, especially places that are kind of just neglected and so they get graffitied up a lot. There's a sort of artistry to it,
Mm-hmm.
but this is artistry with a haunting element. Like, I think of when she climbs through the hole in the wall and it's actually part of this massive mural of the man screaming. And I just, now that y'all are saying it, it suddenly got me thinking. I'm like, this is, I think, why Candyman resonated really well with me watching this. Is it really is gothic horror,
Yeah.
gothic love story.
I need to see it myself still, but like I keep thinking back to the scene I've seen of her seeing him for, I think it's the first time in the
Mhm.
parking deck.
Yeah.
And
when he tells her, "Be my victim."
Yeah, and that whole thing is just like, that whole thing is shot very gothic. It's like you said
Mhm.
before, it's not a gothic setting, but the tone, the atmosphere, the lighting, and it's like, it's not like a classic 60s like Star Trek-esque glamour shot we've slathered Vaseline on the lens, but it has the vibe more of the gothic and the Victorian and that mood and sentimentality.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a much more deeply emotional narrative going on, and there's a lot more use of the visual around her. And again, it's not going to have what we typically associate with Gothic, where you get the Gothic architecture and all this, but it's sort of, and more Gothic. It's like you're seeing these things through a Gothic lens in the way that they're framed.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So yeah, no, it's got me thinking and kind of wanting to go back and rewatch. And I mean, I think the other thing that struck me in it was the beauty, just in that, like, the iconic theme is actually a beautiful piece of music. And if there's one thing I've taken from Gothic horror in film, is that, again, music, artistry, lens, framing, the language about how they speak. And again, I think the Candyman himself, that the way he speaks very much is not, this is not Freddy Krueger.
Yeah.
This is eloquence. There is, when he's saying, you will be my victim and you will this, he's wooing her as much as he's hunting her. So yeah, y'all got me thinking of that, and now my brain is like, Gothic horror. It's Gothic horror. It's modern Gothic horror.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you could actually go back through, and if you took like that whole story and just replaced it for everything we typically associate with Gothic horror, like change the setting to a castle, make her this, something, you could pretty much change everything and tell the exact same story in Gothic horror, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, this is Gothic horror.
I could see that. Yeah.
To an extent.
How?
Yeah.
Now that we've had that epiphany.
Before we leave that epiphany, one thing that comes to mind is how, like, unfortunately we don't have our friend James here, because he's kind of my go-to on not the other one, but the good one, the good one.
Yeah.
Because he's kind of my go-to on this subject. But what is y'all's familiarity with Southern Gothic, and how does, say, Candyman tie into those motifs?
I don't. I'm sure that I've read some Southern Gothic, but I'll be damned if I can pinpoint it.
I've not really read much Southern Gothic. The closest I probably have to really having any understanding of Southern Gothic is what we've sort of ranted about here, is the stop making vampires have been Confederate soldiers.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah.
No more,
Yeah.
please.
And hey, reminder: stop making vampires Southern Confederate types. We can bury that.
Stereotypes. If you're not going to do it with nuance, if you're just going to slap it in there, and even then it's kind of like, maybe we just back off of this for a while and actually contemplate this, because this is just not working. It's just getting overdone.
We don't need the lost cause with vampires. We really don't. We really don't.
The closest I've come to seeing Southern vampires portrayed in a way that was not kind of stereotyped, and it's been a while since it's been a hot minute, like about a year since I watched it, but when I watched Discovery of Witches, which I know is based off a book series, there is a part in one of the later seasons where the lead vampire, who is kind of head of his household, there's a lot more vampire lore about like vampire ruling houses and this, and the show itself nests questions about race by having it be like vampires, witches, and demons are kind of looked down upon by everybody else. So meanwhile, vampires and witches are kind of at war with each other, except that the vampires, one's trying to kill the other. But there's a point where you find out that the lead vampire, and he's very white European, goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. But he's like, you find out that he's actually got members of his family that, who've been brought into this family that are over in the U.S. And specifically, I believe they're in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like in the Louisiana area. And so because at one point he was over there, and it's interesting because when you meet them, they're all minority, like by appearance, they're all black. And so there's a definite rift. And so the story deals with an element of there being a rift, of them feeling like you abandoned us. And it was a better portrayal because it wasn't like, oh, all these vampires were Confederate soldiers. It was like, oh, these vampires have a completely different experience. One, because they sort of got neglected by the family that was supposed to be their family, but also socially, these are black people. They're existing in the South, in the American South. And it was definitely part of that narrative, that it wasn't that it was kind of like, look, we got fucked on both ends. Because you were supposed to be our family who took care of us and helped us like navigate this world. And by the way, this place has racism and fucked up shit going on just because we got different color skin. And I don't want to speak too much that obvious obviously somebody not with that experience, but I found that to be much more thoughtful than just let's make a vampire a Confederate soldier again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, in that regard, I still need to see it myself. I really do. I have no excuse at this point. It's on streaming. I'm pretty sure I've got a service that's streaming on. Have either of you seen Sinners yet? And how
have we seen Sinners?
And how that ties
I love
to the
Sinners.
topic.
Sinners is amazing, and I love it. I love it.
I may need to see it again.
You may need to see it. You were the one who told me to see it, and then I watched it, and then happened to mention to my boss that who's had many a rant about the death of the first act in Hollywood, because he was in Hollywood and has worked in Hollywood, and he's like, you just don't see it. And then I came on one day and was like, oh yeah, I saw this movie, and actually the whole first half of the movie is really the first act. It's the setup, and when it flips, it's like, holy shit. And he literally, and I'm just telling him that I finally saw a movie, that I saw a movie reason. He literally, nowhere in that quick little thing did I say you should see this, because I wasn't sure if Sinners would be up his alley in terms of vampires aren't everybody's thing. But, and he literally goes, well, you just convinced me to watch it.
Ryan Coogler's really good. He's good at his job.
He is, yeah. My boss, a week later, was like, I watched it. It's not normally my type of movie, but that was beautifully done.
It is a really beautiful movie.
It's just excellent execution on the narrative, and I love the way the film brings people's cultures and experiences that's influenced by their cultures in. I love this. I just love everything about it, the way it portrays everything, the nuance that it uses, the storytelling that it does. So
every little thing in that movie is purposefully chosen, and I think
very much so.
Sorry.
Yeah.
One thing you just said, Liz. When we came into this, we talked a little bit we talked about the physical aspects of beauty and whatnot about when we're thinking about beauty and horror. But what you just said about culture, like the way, the beauty within cultures, I'm sorry, my brain is thinking about this on the fly, so it's all a jumbled mess right now. It's like, how does horror engage with beauty found within culture, and what culture say is beautiful, and what we find beautiful within culture, which may not necessarily be the same things, also because of different differing perspectives and all that.
Yeah.
Well, it brings an element of there's an interpretive element too of people's experiences, and I mean, there's the phrase "beauty is in the eye of the beholder," and I think in a more nuanced sense, that's beauty. One person may look at a bug and go, "That's a bug," but somebody else who's fascinated by insects and bugs can look at it and be like, this is gorgeous. This is fascinating. And it's beauty. It's in the eye of the beholder, but there's an element too of that. It's also influenced by experience. One person who goes up around a place where grows up around a farm may perceive beauty differently because their experience is different than somebody who, say, never set foot on a farm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I notice it when I talk to people who were other fellow horse people, because one thing we've all kind of agreed on is that sort of earthy, that smell that people smell at farms, specifically especially barns where horses are and everything, horse farms, of it's a mix of an earthy smell mixed with manure and usually probably hay or straw of some kind. To me, that smell is actually comforting. And I've talked with other people from the horse community, from the equine community, and they all agree, there is something that's just beautiful about that, or not really beautiful, but it's just comforting about it, that we smell it and we're like, we know where we are. it's almost a homely feeling. Like I know everything. Like I've when I've gone a while without going to the barn, and finally get to go to the barn, and I step out, it's like smelling that smell is like letting off like a weight off my shoulders.
Yeah.
Whereas I know other people are like, oh, barns smell bad. And all those horse people are sitting here going, the fuck you talking about? But it's also, there's an influence of experience and culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's part culture, part experience, kind of wraps up together.
Yeah.
And I think that's
Yeah.
also stuff that we see in a variety of movies.
If
One
I
that
was
I
just
want to.
thinking,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to move into segueing into a film, but yeah.
Oh,
there,
I was saying, oh.
I also had a segue myself, if I may, because I think
Mhm.
so. As I've been telling you guys like throughout the past 2 weeks now, I've been, and
Oh,
Liz
you're
brought up.
segueing into exactly what I was going to segue into.
So yeah, I mean it's perfect, especially what we just talked about perspectives and horror and culture. And it's like so
Yep.
as we talk about beauty and horror, so one thing I realize is like horror can also, as we just mentioned, like what people find beautiful in culture and what culture tells us is beautiful may not always match up based on
Mhm.
perspectives and lived experiences. And I think one thing that horror is very useful for as a tool is exposing things that are culturally considered beautiful, but to those who may live under them in oppressed ways, find horrific. And in that regard, Silent Hill F, the latest in the Silent Hill franchise. That is a game with things to say about the patriarchy and all the beauty in being a quiet and submissive wife and the expectations thereof. Oh boy.
Mhm.
That's why I've seen some people being upsetty spaghetti and crying about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Well,
I haven't been cluing in on the reviews, honestly. So
it
partly because I don't want to
it you
I want to still be able to experience
it
it.
usually stems from insecure incel chuds. That's
Oh yeah.
all you need
Oh,
to know.
okay, okay. In
Yeah.
other words, they're gonna be. Well, it's like the same people that get mad when a game had. Like, I'm gonna be honest, and sorry, everybody gets a little offended, but let's be real. As a woman, I've
Mhm.
experienced this in seeing it in people's responses. It's when a game suddenly gets a female character in a leading position, or a female lead, or a this or that, or
Mm-hmm.
I find it hilarious. Like, I don't care for the Star Wars sequel series, but everybody that got mad that Gwendolyn Christie's costume didn't have boobs on it.
Why would it be?
What was it,
What?
Captain Phantasm? And I love
Phasma,
how,
yes, Captain
and I
Phasma.
still loved that their response on, yeah, there was like a tweet or something of like, why doesn't she have boobs if it's a woman? And they're like,
Why
because it's
can't I
armor.
goon to the space fascist armor?
Yeah, and I mean, I see it from the experience of, having been raised as a woman, it's like, anytime somebody gets mad because something was made female, and frankly I see it happen with, if anything, if we're gonna make this character minority or this
Mm-hmm.
or that, it's like,
It's like all the
are we really having this discussion?
I mean,
Well,
like I'm maybe
also,
getting a little too into the whole gaming news section, but did y'all hear like the news that came out of Ubisoft about the canceled Assassin's Creed or like not
no.
project, but the pitch. The Assassin's Creed devs pitched a Reconstruction era Assassin's Creed where you played a black man and part of the game would have involved going after the clan.
Oh, that
And
sounds really cool.
it sounds really cool and
Yeah.
really awesome. And Ubisoft leadership shot it down in the wake of all the shit going on right now and all of the like flack and hell they were catching over the fact that the most recent one that just came out this year, Shadows, has Yasuke, a historic black samurai. He
Yep.
was a former slave of Jesuit priests who came with them to Japan, met Oda Nobunaga, and Nobunaga was like, I like you. He's not your slave
Wow.
anymore. He's one of my vassals now. I'm making him a samurai.
Yeah.
And that's historical.
Yes, he is historical.
That story,
there's
that
still
history is
Mhm.
awesome.
Yes. It's like there's enough room for them to
it's
still play
amazing.
around in because, like, of the document. But we know Yasuke existed. We know he was recruited personally by Oda Nobunaga. And these people are still having a fucking shit fit. Because they're white supremacists. I will say it, they are white supremacists. At some level,
Because
even if they're not fervent, they're enough to be upset that a historic black man being a playable character in a Japanese story where he literally existed during this time period. He exists. He's real.
when you're self-aware enough that you're the bad guy, but believe that you're not, but you've convinced yourself that you're not the bad guy, but you're just self-aware enough of the fact that you are, that you get mad when other people are just like, yeah, you're the bad guy. And it's like, well, yeah, you should be uncomfortable because you fucking are.
They haven't quite got to the meme, are we the baddies?
Yeah, they're not quite there. Still, like I said, they have convinced themselves that they're the good guys, but they're self-aware enough of the fact that they are maybe not the good guys, but they haven't really conceptualized it because they're still suppressing and repressing that.
Yeah. Whether
but it makes them uncomfortable when they get called out as being the bad guys.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Bunch of cowards.
But
just like Ubisoft.
Yes.
Cowards.
Yep.
Make the game.
Make the fucking game.
Yeah.
Remember how much people
Ubisoft,
like that Black Flag spinoff on the PSP and were like, I would like more of this. And then they didn't make more of this because...
Yep.
Ubisoft, grow a pair.
So, speaking of... well, I don't really have a say with it, but I was going to segue as well. So, speaking of my segue, I was going to segue into something that's relevant today, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
The Stepford Wives. Are you guys
I hadn't
familiar
even
with the
thought of
Stepford
that.
Wives?
I'm familiar with it. I never watched it, but I know the story enough, especially because of how it's become sort of an influential. It's become part of culture in terms of like it kind of became part of culture in a little bit in the way that some of the slasher horrors have. Even if you didn't watch it, you know what it's about.
So it started as a book in 1972 by Ira Levin, and it's a satirical feminist horror book. And then it was made into a movie in 1975, and then it was remade in 2004. And It's about a woman who gets married. She goes to this town. Things are weird. And she discovers that the women who are married to these men were replaced by robots.
Yeah, it's been parodied in a lot of places too. Like even Supernatural did a parody on that. Only it was like witchcraft that was replacing was being used or something.
Yeah. And the thing about it is that they were replaced by these robots because these robots could do all the traditional value stuff that men desire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we're seeing a lot of that today.
Oh, God,
It's
the fucking
relevant
trad wife
today.
shit.
Not just the trad wife shit, but also the AI shit.
Yep.
And how there's a lot of men who are lonely who are pivoting into just having an AI girlfriend, some of who marry their AI girlfriend. I don't know how that works, but they are choosing a robot that will do and say everything that the man wants and agree completely with him with no pushback or autonomy over a real life human being.
Yeah. Well, because the AI is only what you feed it. So if you feed it this you feed it this level of like bullshit, to put it bluntly, it's gonna start basing its logic for you around all that bullshit.
Yeah. And
it's so like it makes me think of even something that to me that was almost even more alarming is that the rate of, maybe it takes a dark turn for a moment, but the rise of AI assisted suicides among teens.
Yeah. Fucking
and
hell.
and teens and kids using AI to talk more and more, and the one guy being like, and I heard this through, I think it was like a Daily Show interview with somebody who was pointing out like this kid whose dad was like, oh, my kid was, I just put the thing in front and let my kid talk to Chat GPT for a while, and they're this and
Yep.
this, and then I finally had to find a way to break it to my kid that this is not real. And I'm like, wow, we're building a bunch of people with zero social skills. Because AI is only ever going to reflect back what they give it.
I want to give a specific shout out as well, because I've heard of this, to somebody on YouTube. Their name is Kaylin Conrad. It says Dr. Kaylin Conrad, but they're a doctor only in that they got a doctorate in ghost hunting as an essay, a video essay that they did, because they're an essayist, a video essayist.
Okay.
And one of the more recent ones they did is like 2 months old. Was they looked into AI and various AI chatbots and such, and went in and figured out a variety of ways to get the AI to not only sympathize with as far as committing suicide, but also going through with it, and that it was actually okay to do so.
Nope.
Yeah, the AI.
Nope.
Rails.
And that's what's so so disturbing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's literally a rise in AI assisted suicides. Literally, it's the term for it, and it's disturbing to see that.
Yeah, but I wanted
this is like if anything was going to make you swear off technology, I swear it's that term.
Yeah.
Alone, because it's just like fuck all of it.
And the people putting this shit out think this thing's the most beautiful thing ever made.
It's like it's not. It's slop.
It's exactly.
Yeah.
It's
a bubble that's gonna burst. It's gonna burst pretty hard.
It's looking like a really bad bubble too, because I've been hearing things lately like we're looking bigger
worse
than
than NFTs in the .com industry.
Like I've been hearing, like the way it's getting right now, it's probably going to be bigger than the subprime burst in 2008, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
because like
even that interview.
And the sucky thing for me specifically is that it affects the place where I work.
Yeah, you're a professor. You have to deal with students keep using this shit to turn in.
No. It's not just that.
Oh, right.
The place where I work is getting into a contract to try to get in early with Google. And that involves AI and AI jobs and such. And when this bursts, if they're still on contract, they're screwed.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's going to affect
everyone's. Me. It's all really. I mean, my boss looks at me, and we've held to with it. I mean, we had a great example one day where we had one of our students, because we teach a lot of like mini courses and everything, and one of our students came in and was like, I came in with their statement and was like, I actually did this with ChatGPT. And we're working with professionals about communication, so it was kind of like, okay, well, we'll work with what this is, but you're going to get feedback. And what was funny for us and very positive for us was that the person's response, like by day 2, is they're like, ChatGPT can't do this.
Yep.
It requires human nuance. And it was so funny to us because we're like, yay, you validated what we do, because you even came in with something that was originally written by AI, and then it through the course of the week, you saw very quickly that to actually achieve the better quality of structure, you actually needed to be the one that AI couldn't get that structure. So it was a great validation for what we do. But I mean, the thing in the background of like every conversation, like every time we have a meeting, my boss is like, who knows if AI suddenly starts to replace what we do, and not because it can do what we do, but it's because if people just say, fuck paying these people to come in and teach this structure, I'm just going to give it to ChatGPT and let it do it for us. And so, it's sort of we live with the constant looming threat that what we do could be completely undermined by AI.
If I may, real quick.
And yet what we do is so critical, because we're teaching.
You're trying to teach people about narrative and how narrative functions and how we think in narrative. Because it's a completely unrelated thing that people don't like. We take for granted that we are cognitively we are narrative people. Like humanity are a narrative people with how we organize our thinking, our day to day. It is how we recount our history. It is how we, it's in how we interact with each other. Think about all, like, even just like simple gossip. Every way you relate to other people is through the narratives we construct about our own lives and interactions with each other.
Yeah.
And also,
Mhm.
also, I don't want to run away with this too much, but I do feel it is very important to point out right now. If you're listening to this podcast right now and you're not, and you've heard about AI shit, and you maybe you don't know as much about it, but or let alone how it works, but a quick primer that I feel is very important to point out about how this shit works. What these models do, they are large learning models, language learning models. I forget what LLM stands for exactly, but what they do is
Large language
large
models.
language models. What they do, and this is also for the image generation ones as well. They are not
Yeah.
thinking in the way we do. They are, to make a comparison, it is barely even, it is not even comparable to a processing center of the brain in its complexity. It is the barest sort of connect the dots, as it were. What these models do is you feed them a ton of data, a ton of information, be it text, be it video, be it still photographs and images. And what they do is they mathematically analyze, and this is my lay understanding of it, I admit, but I do feel this is important. What they do is they analyze what the most mathematically probable sequence to follow from a given set is. So the way it works is if you've played around with this, you've done prompts. You put in a prompt. What the machine then does for you is it generates a response that it calculates based on its data sets is the most mathematically likely thing to follow from that prompt. This is also, for example, why they can't do actual math. Because they're not. The math they're doing is figuring out the probability of words and pixels and whatnot following adjacency to other words and pixels. They are not actually like doing, like, if you ask it what is 2 plus 2, it's not doing a math calculation of 2 plus 2 like a calculator would. It is combing through all of its shit basically to figure out what is the most probable thing to come after 2 plus 2 within the
Um,
data set. Okay, sorry.
just a quick aside.
Yeah.
Apologies to Caitlin Conrad. I referred to them as he, him a couple times. They are they, them. I apologize. Much respect to you and your journalism.
Mm-hmm. I'll put a note there as well. When
Yeah, thank
We
you.
appreciate
during the
what
edit.
you do.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
anybody is listening to this and or watching this and being like, "The fuck are you all on about? You're insane. None of it's like that," then maybe this isn't the podcast for you.
Yeah.
You know,
So
we want you to be open-minded, but if you honestly are like, AI is the best thing, we don't see a problem here.
You're not gonna
You might
have
be
fun
missing
here,
the
is the
point.
thing. You're
We're not going to
not.
be nice about this stuff.
so so the Stepford Wives, right?
Hell
Yes!
But yeah, so the Stepford Wives, it's a satirical thing, and it leans on the idea of traditional beauty, traditional performances, traditional everything, keeping up the house, all that stuff. The 50s rose tinted imagery that we have, which isn't even real.
Mhm.
It's something that people imagine, and that's why the men all have robots for women, for wives, rather than women. Those were once women, but then they were taken
Now,
and
were they converted
became
or were they
robots.
replaced?
I don't remember offhand, but
I mean, both are bad, but one is slightly more
Yeah.
horrific than the other, depending on how you think about it.
I
Yeah,
imagine,
parodies and homages have taken different interpretations of whether it's replacement, possession, enhancement, as in suppression,
Yeah.
suppressing the individuality.
but down to the finest hairs or lack of hair on a woman, the ideal of that woman that the man wants, right, is what that town is. And it speaks to the idea of traditional marriage and what men who are in that thing want, rather than what women who want that life imagine it would be. That's not to say that everyone who embarks on a traditional marriage is wrong or that it's bad for them. Some people, they go into it, they have agreements with each other of what that looks like, and they follow that and they're happy, right?
Yeah. It comes down to if you're both communicating and equal parts in participation and desire and investment in being there from an actual place of wanting it, that's a different place. You know, that's looking at, okay, you've got a healthy relationship and you both chose to do this together as a couple, versus Stepford is the more nefarious of what she thinks is an equal relationship is actually not.
Yeah. And we see that today. And with the push of the trad wife thing, we see the results of it, and we see how abusive it gets in a lot of relationships, and how destructive it is. It's horror from parody and satire come to life.
It's real life. It's real life horror because there's the whole element of like somebody else's standards being forced
and then
onto other people.
Yeah, down to things like trying to get rid of one-sided divorces, trying to get rid of, rights for women in a lot of cases. The fact that people, and I partially blame Pearl. I think her name is Pearl Davis on this. The touting of removal of women's right to vote and how that's escalated in the zeitgeist, and all the way up to now, where a lot of men who are disgruntled and who are lonely, not through anybody else's faults, and so instead of trying to change themselves and change their environment, they're saying, I'm just going to use AI and have an AI robot woman, and that's my person. And women can be lonely. Like they have a stupid, ugly AI meme picture of like a guy walking with a robot woman who has a see-through womb with a baby growing in it, and then a real woman who is impoverished on the ground, covered in like blankets and plaid, saying something like looking for a relationship or on like a piece of cardboard or something like that. Like, it's really gross and disgusting.
Oh god,
I
feel
hate it.
Sick.
Yeah, it sucks.
And
the
I
fact
want
that,
breedbot. I want goon in breedbot.
Yeah, the fact that something that was in the 70s just a satire is insane.
It is. It is.
And to relate it to beauty and horror, it's a certain male gaze that they see as ideal beauty in every step, fashion, and aspect of a woman's life. That is the horror and beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's not
and
the
actually,
beauty
you
from the
mentioned
woman's
that
perspective. It's the beauty from the man's perspective layered on the woman.
Yeah. And now that you mentioned that actually, it's perfect segue into one of the other movies I watched in prep. And I know you watched it, Dave.
Thank you for getting us out of here.
It's Neon Demon.
Neon Demon, yes.
Yes. And I will objectively say that the film is pretty. It plays with the way they compose scene structures, very much in a lot of ways in its own way, but very akin to the original Suspiria, in that, there is an artistry to staging scenes, that doesn't necessarily reflect actual reality, but it's about creating this otherworldliness to it. However, my take by the end of the movie was, I honestly got to the end of the movie, and before I kind of read anything about the director, I felt like this movie feels like it was trying to tell these stories about women and models and Los Angeles, and witchcraft, but it was all through the male gaze, and so I found myself more annoyed with it because there was a point where it started just to become so stereotypical, and it was just like, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, and I mean everybody in it was excellent at what they did, and it still was objectively pretty, but story wise, it fell apart for me.
I have a question about that. So, I haven't seen Neon Demon, but I would like to ask this question based on what I've read about. I've read the plot summary, and that's about it. Because I could, it's one of those things where it's like sometimes I'll read about a horror movie and I'll be like, okay, I'll try that, and then other times I'll be like, oh, I dread going into this now. And the thing I wanted to ask is, so reading the plot summary, one of the things I got from it was the sense of like, I could see where a movie could take this idea and use it to talk about the way patriarchy and by extent other uh, oppressive social systems turn the oppressed against each other and makes them vie for approval of the oppressive system and the people who execute the system and so on and so forth. Now, from what you've said about, I mean, from what Liz has said about the way it feels like the male gaze here kind of mars the whole thing. I guess my question is, how badly does the male gaze in that instance, like, neuter the ability of the work to portray that aspect of social dynamics in oppressive systems, and could you see taking this same plot but having someone less male gaze at the helm executing it better and like actually getting that message across without shooting itself in its own foot as it kind of falls into these stereotypes and so on and so forth?
Um, I think that
I
there
think I could.
are. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm curious. I'm curious your take on it, anyways.
So for me, I think that there are some aspects of that where it works, and I think that there are some that either don't really need to be there and so they don't work, or I don't think it works. And in part, it might be for the reason of like male director rather than a female director.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I will say I think the first half of the movie works better than the second half.
Huh.
In some regards. And I'm thinking the first half that we get this young woman, who's actually younger than she appears. She says, I'm 16. I actually just turned 16, but she's being told, tell everybody you're 19. And like, I think of the scene when she goes into the shoot with this prestigious photographer who's supposed to be a really big deal, and it's so unusual, and it's kind of incredible that she's getting, doing a session with him when she's literally brand new in the industry. And so it's, of course, sidelines, they're being like, this is why these other women are jealous, because they work so hard to get to that point, and here she's just being handed an opportunity. And to me, the element of like seeing somebody she knew on the set, and another woman who's kind of maybe not the nicest person, but does seem to kind of be looking out for her a little bit. And then the photographer says, close set, kicks everybody out, makes her strip off her clothing, and then he physically goes with his hands and covers her in gold paint.
Jesus Christ.
They never show anything, and he never behaves. It's interesting. It's a scene that I think is horrifying in the way that it's framed, which is that cinematography wise, it's framed very intimately in the way it slows down on the way he's painting her. But if you look at his facial expression, he is neutral as fuck. Like, there is no, like, they're acting in that very, it's very, the cinematography frames it as a very sensual scene. If you look at the actors' faces, it's extremely neutral, especially on the part of the photographer, where you get the idea that for him, business as usual. He's just about the art and the picture and taking the picture. Does
And
not really care what about that. And to me, that was more kind of a look at beauty and horror, because here is what is supposed to be an underage girl.
yeah, she's like 16.
And this is like, yeah, and yes, true, the photographer doesn't necessarily know it, or it's sort of a, we're going to universally ignore questioning this.
Her agent, played by the wonderful Christina Hendricks,
Oh, I love Hendrix.
tells her, you always say your age is 19. 18's on the nose, say 19.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah, and I feel like there's an implication that everybody knows.
Yeah.
It's the it's the secret everybody knows, but nobody questions it, because if you actually say anything out loud, that's when it becomes a problem. But if nobody actually questions it, then this. So you can surmise from that the photographer may suspect that may have, if he was more aware, but the way he's played as being so sort of blasé about everybody else, he's almost played as somebody who just doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, these people are his subjects for his art.
That guy in particular feels like it's just what he does. And everybody is basically the same. And so here we go. Here's another one. And another one. And another one.
In a way,
and to me, in that regard, the first half...
in a way, it's its own form of dehumanization, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't really see what you're kind of not sure what you're going to get when you walk in and see him, and then you get this person who really seems like he's gotten by because he just is focused on what he does, and what he does is apparently very good.
Yeah.
But as an actual person and getting along with them, it's almost more like, oh, it's not because, oh, you might get along with this guy. It's, we're going to put him in front of you and see if he's inspired by your appearance, and then therefore utilizes you. It's really much more of a, this guy, everything is art and is a possible subject matter.
And on top, and on top of that, there's a level of like ageism to it also.
Yeah. He's older. I mean,
well, not just him, but like the other models who the main character is around a lot are older than her. They're like in their late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
Something like that. Like I think 26 was what one of them said in particular.
They're all at that point though, but then when they all are bringing up the pact, like one of them's bringing up of, oh, I'm going to get past my prime, the whole like, it's very, and that's where it starts to me to feel a little stereotypical, especially because in the last 10 years, there has been a lot more of a push, from my perception, even though there is still, and I'm sure the modeling industry, there still are pressures about appearance and physicality in this. There has been a much more active effort to look at people as people and not say that models have to be X, Y, or Z. There are more brands now, and since 2017 even, that have embraced all ages and all body types. There are major companies who have done whole campaigns that are centered around, like Dove has done entire campaigns that are centered around, let's show you women of all ages. And all types. And so to me, that is where the film feels very stereotyped, because it's very much, we're only going to, because it sort of acts like it's speaking to all of modeling, when I want to be like, no, this is speaking to a subset of a very huge industry. A very huge industry that has opened up a lot more. I mean, we've come a long way since the guy who used to own Abercrombie and Fitch, who said, I don't make clothing for plus size people. I think that came out and it just, and he got unceremoniously drummed out, basically. I mean, that basically killed that brand, and even if it still exists, it killed the brand in terms of its sort of notoriety, because now it was like, wow, you suck.
When you act like a troglodyte, you get what you get.
So there's two avenues of thought that I have here in this, and I don't mean it as counter to what you say, but so the first thing that comes to mind is I wonder what degree. degree to which it's less about the modeling industry specifically in the film. And again, I haven't seen it, so you two have a stronger vibe on this than I do. But it's the question that's popping into my head. To what extent is it that they are using the modeling industry as a metaphor for how society, particularly capitalist society, tries to turn things, or rather, tries to turn people into commodity? And the thing that
Mhm.
occurs to me in that regard, especially as you mentioned the thing about ages, aside from the thing that popped in my head about a rather gross term I've heard about Japanese women and before, if you've ever heard the term Christmas cake in regard to weddings, uh, look that up.
No.
It's not a great one. Okay. The long story short, there is the idea that no one wants to marry a woman after 25.
Yeah. It's this very dated idea. Well, it goes all the way back
Mm-hmm.
to, you know,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, 1700s, 1800s, where a woman was considered past her prime if
Yep.
she made it like you were people were getting married off younger, and
Mm-hmm.
it's like if you were 21 and unmarried, you were a spinster.
Yeah.
That's
And
very gross.
so the thing that comes to mind with this, and I guess bringing up the Christmas cake ties into that because selling Christmas cakes, it's a commodity, and it's the aspect of like the thing that occur like almost inherent to the commodity is the novelty, the newness of the commodity. It is a commodity in that kind of way, like loses value rapidly as time goes on. So you're always looking for the next thing, the next new novel experience or knick-knack or whatnot. And like again, we live in a society that desperately tries to turn people into commodities so they can be sold as well. So I
Well,
wonder to what degree
Yeah.
that's happening. And the other part of this I want to ask as well, like keeping those two thoughts in mind and kind of keeping them in orbit of one another, is like Liz, you mentioned that the modeling industry has been improving and has been looking into models of a more diverse age range, of a more diverse body type, being more accepting of other races and even gender. And that is something that's been happening. But one of the things I've been noticing over the years, and I've seen other people point this out as well, or not years, but like especially recently, is how fast the backslide is happening in corporations that even just a couple of years ago were heartily and very PR megaphoning their commitment to like diverse practices and more progressive policies. But now as now their executives feel like they see the wind shifting with the current administration and so on, and the current like rise of arts conservatism and the alt right as potential
Yeah.
markets, how quickly they're backsliding away from that. So I guess my question is, to what extent are though like keep in mind the aspect of like I would say it's almost a material reality about
Yeah.
novelty and commodity, and then how much like how fragile like relying on these corporations to embrace progressive values as values instead of that's now their current way to make the fast buck. Okay,
Well, and that
I'll
part
let
is
you two
very
run off
true.
with
I
it.
know. I get what you're saying. That's very true. What I noticed with it is one is the movie was 2017, and
Oh,
while I completely agree, I've seen the same things
mm-hmm,
happening in the last few years. The movie was in 2017, which I
mm-hmm,
think we were still really kind of seeing a
mm-hmm,
lot more open celebration.
mm-hmm,
Yes, 2017. We already had administration, but what I've seen that's been really truly nefarious has especially been in this second round
oh yeah,
of
Mhm.
that administration. And I think in 2017, we were still seeing a lot more. It also, to me, just in that regard, it lacked the nuance
mm-hmm,
of it, because even going back into the earlier aughts, in like when I was in college in like 2008, 2009. And in our own departments, I mean, my degree is in fashion design, and we were actively talking about, what was industry standard for models, why you saw all these skinny things on the runway. But we were starting to have these conversations as designers, and we were having these conversations as designers about being more accessible, being more open to body image, being more like, let's not just make lines and base them around skinny size 8s. Let's base these designs around people of varying body types. And that was much earlier days, but just knowing that the conversations were there, and these were, several of these friends, several of my classmates have gone on to be professionals within the industry. No, I did not do that. But I had other plans and not plans. But that, knowing that those conversations were there, and I feel like in 2017 was where I was still seeing, like 2016, 2017, 2015 even, you were seeing a lot more highlighting of this sort of like, hey, we're going to do a better job about this. Certainly now it's a different story. I think where the movie missed its mark especially is, again, I think the first half has potential, because at the first half is really you really are seeing this setup of this young woman, this girl really, who has snuck her way in, has not really snuck her way, but has sort of cheated her way into the industry, because she's definitely too young to be doing the stuff that she's doing, the types of shoots she's doing, and people know it, and they're just letting her slip by on it, and that she's, when they say this requires parental consent, and they don't actually make any effort to say we're going to contact parents. They just hand her the form and say, sign this. It's a parental consent form. So openly having her forge parental consent. So there's this whole element of this girl who is out of her depth, not just because she's brand new, but because she's underage. And in this industry that emotionally I don't think she's prepared for. The story sets up that she's not emotionally ready for what it is. And there's a few people, there's like really only maybe one or two people, more almost one, which is oddly enough the guy at the beginning who photographs her, who she's warned, you got to be careful about those guys off of Craigslist or whatever. But he actually seems to be probably one of the ones who's the most sensitive to the fact that she's out of her depth, and the most genuinely invested in her being safe, despite everything, and being actually supportive. And I think there was potential in there to tell a very interesting story about the pressures placed on somebody in that situation, and maybe more the elements of being willing to overlook something that's really not good, like her being underage. And there was a lot more opportunity, I think, in there to criticize that sort of forcing young people to grow up because they fit an aesthetic. Because again, everybody seems to know she's too young, but nobody questions it.
Yeah.
So it's like, and to me, that was the truly nefarious part. And then where it falls apart, really starts to fall apart for me, is when she ends up walking the finale of the fashion show and of that one runway show.
The triangle show?
The triangle show. And she sees the triangle. And I did read online, like I was reading more about it. And the idea was to be very much kind of retelling in that moment the myth of Narcissus.
Yeah.
Looks at his own reflection, falls in love with himself. And to me, I'm like, I see that in that, like what explained, I see that. From there, though, the whole story falls apart.
Yeah,
I think, because to me it falls apart. It falls apart even more at the witchiness, the witchy stuff. I mean, I think you could have done a lot more with, if you were going to go on that social side, to how socially one of the things that I know is something women experience is being pitted against each other.
Yeah.
I think that could have been told in a much better way. Instead, we got this weird sexuality thing. Robin's actually a predator, and like gets mad because, you know, Elle's character turns her off because she's like, no, I'm not into you like that. And then she's off boning corpses, and
That
it went
was,
off the rails in.
I think that was Elle's corpse. Because we
No, it
see
wasn't
like,
Elle's corpse.
really? Because I thought there was like a
They,
parallel between that and
it was,
when she gets pushed into the empty pool.
it's before Elle gets killed, and
Hmm.
then it was before Elle gets killed is she rejects her, and so she goes to, and then Robin goes to work, and while she's at work, Elle has that whole moment where she puts on the dress and she's walking around the house, and then when Robin gets back after she's boned the corpse, they're sitting there, and Elle's on the diving board talking to her and being like that moment where it's supposed to be Elle's character. I can't remember her character's name, so just it's Elle
Uh,
Fanning playing her.
uh,
But that she's standing there going, "Oh yeah, you know I'm this," and it's that sort of a, oh, she's 180, she's not the humble little girl anymore. Also
yeah,
because they eat her.
yeah. Well, I mean, you don't. I'm not gonna say it.
But
Okay.
no, but it's not her corpse. It's a corpse that looks like her specifically, and it's more because specifically this is what Robin does in between. She
Yeah,
leaves her for the day and then comes back, and at that point I think she's sort of flipped the switch, and now it's like, well, you wouldn't do it with me, and it's here, so I'm gonna get what I want from you another way.
yeah. It that never made much sense to me. Like
Yeah.
I could tell that it's either Robin or Ruby really liked her, but
Yeah.
there wasn't really any build to obsession levels. So it felt very sharp and sudden, kind of out of nowhere.
It just
Um,
kind of became Robin's being a creeper now.
yeah, it stopped her being like a helper because there wasn't enough. There wasn't enough.
Yeah.
Uh, Ruby, Robin, whatever, and Elle together. There wasn't enough scenes of that. There was too many others that were involved that never really went anywhere.
Yeah.
But that's getting off track.
Yeah.
The court is like, I get what they were trying to do as well. I think I liked it a little more than you did, but I understood why they ate her.
Yeah.
Literally, not figuratively.
Yeah.
And I get it because it's kind of like Highlander. There can be only one, and so
Yeah.
when you kill your enemy, you consume them, and then you gain their power, so to speak,
Yeah,
which is what happened.
that actually made sense. But everything else around it is
Yeah,
why I almost am like they didn't need the witchy stuff, because that one little bit made sense, but everything else around it was just really not working
they were
from
trying
that
to.
moment.
The director was trying too hard,
Yeah,
and it shows.
yeah,
But I
this
like
is
the idea of it. The idea
yeah,
of it is good, and I think with somebody else, it could have been done better, more
yeah,
competently.
yeah.
And again, like you said, the actors were great. The actors were
They were
fantastic.
excellent.
They were doing what they could with the material they were given.
Even Keanu Reeves playing a skeevy
Yes,
motel manager slash murderer.
yeah, and I think we've both seen
Whoa.
those style of motels slash apartments because those are all from the same
Everywhere.
company because they are cheap to build, they are easy to build, they are basically slumlord buildings, and
They're what you expect a 16-year-old who maybe didn't have only had her summer income to
yeah,
go off of,
and
and
desperate
maybe what
people,
cash she could steal out of daddy's wallet to go off of.
yeah, and desperate people in LA will get 4, 5, 6 people at a time to stay in those places to split the rent because it's so expensive. And I know that
Yeah.
because people I went to school with there had to do the same thing, and it
Yep.
sucks.
Yeah. And the movie, realistically, I mean, it's this young man who's clearly seems to be the most genuinely invested in her, and
Mhm.
frankly, from the car he drives, and I see people like this all around LA, and cars like that, where I'm not sure, like, he's doing well enough that he at least has a fancy car, or a fancy looking car, but he's even coming in and being like, I'll pay if that helps.
Yeah, and then Keanu's like, "What you got on you?" He's like, $100. He's like, "Gimme." uh, But yeah, I also wouldn't be
That's
surprised if a mountain cat wasn't around, because when I was there in LA, I'd see stuff like deer and coyotes.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
remember looking at the comments and somebody mentioned that they've lived in kind of what was implied of that area, or their areas of the city, because LA, the way LA backs up on like wildlife. I mean, you can be like, here's LA right here, and now here's, Topanga Hills,
yeah,
like right here. And it's like, so I could see how if you're situated in the right place, yes, that's a hazard. That like
like
leave a window open, you might get I would more likely expect a coyote,
yeah,
because those do come further into the city. I mean, there's a
mhm,
neighborhood right near me, and I mean, I live right in the city, and one of the nearby neighborhoods literally has signs out being like, what to do if you spot a coyote. I've
yep,
seen coyotes in the city, and I think they've learned to sort of adapt to it. A mountain lion, I would expect something maybe a little more removed than she was, but she did say she
yeah,
was staying in Pasadena, which is a bit more removed from the more populous density that is like downtown LA. So in that
mhm,
regard, actually it does make sense. Actually, just thinking about the park areas that were in Pasadena and like the recent fires and like the January fires. Yeah, actually it makes sense.
yeah,
It's a little startling because it makes sense more in the context of living here and around here and being here through certain things. So I could see why somebody from like no LA experience might be like, the fuck, that makes no sense.
yeah. Shoot, I remember when I first saw a coyote there. It was like the middle of the night. I was walking back from Vaughn's. Not sponsored. Don't shop at Vaughn's until they give us money. Um, and I'm walking uphill because my apartment complex is on a big hill across the street from Warner Brothers, and a coyote just like pops out from the woods across the street and starts
Yeah.
walking down the hill. And I remember mentally going, "Oh shit, it's a coyote. I hope it doesn't try to
Yep.
attack me." And since it was just kind of trotting down, looked at me briefly, and then kept going forward, I kept also going forward in the direction I was going, and neither one of us bothered the other. Uh,
Yeah. They'll really
Coyotes just
mind their
chill.
own because they've managed to make it work, you
yeah,
know,
they
with what little.
understand humans exist.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. The mountain lion, I could see that for certain like in certain parts of Pasadena. Actually, I could see the mountain lion again if they're backed up on the hills in just the right spot. Contextually for the film, maybe it would have played better as a coyote for those who maybe don't realize that was a very in part of the film. Like,
Mhm.
you have to have been like to Pasadena in LA, understand kind of the ecosystem of the
Yeah,
area to get it. And so in that regard, I could see that part falling on like somebody who'd like say lived in New York their whole life and not necessarily even in the city, just in upstate New York or something, or whatever. Like, I could see that not making sense to other people, because even my own experience growing up on the East Coast in Virginia, none of it matches with that.
yeah.
Like, we might get a raccoon on the back porch, but that's it.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's, depending on where you are in the state, I'm pretty sure there's still cougars.
Yeah, no, and again, but I feel like in like Virginia, you'd
Mm-hmm.
more likely spot that in a rural area.
Oh,
So to a
okay.
lot of people logically, you wouldn't get wildlife
Yeah.
like that in a motel on a busy on what
True,
looks
true.
to be a reasonably trafficked street. But it's where I say some of that is very unique to LA in that nature
The
and
encroachment factor.
urban. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's definitely an encroachment factor, and it's sort of nature has just adapted to a changing ecosystem that is more urban than it is rural.
Mm.
Yeah.
You know what?
So
So
LA nature just did what Los Angeles already do, which is just fucking adapted.
yep.
I'm
But
trying.
fine, this is where I live now.
I'm trying desperately not to ramble about the way Tanuki have become more prominent in Japanese cities lately, post-COVID.
Well, let's is this I think this is a good spot, right?
We're going to put a pin in that for a
Yeah.
moment. And
Let's
Yep.
take a break. We're
Yeah,
gonna take a
viewers,
break.
everyone.
Y'all Voidwalkers, stay tuned.
Go
Get
out,
these commercials.
stretch your legs,
Grab a
stretch your
soda.
legs, drink your
Or a
water.
drink, or some
Yep.
water. Well, it's probably better for you. I say
Don't
staring at an
don't
empty
your
eat
soda
any
pups.
glass.
models.
Yep. Please don't go out and eat people, y'all.
Yeah.
Please.
And we'll be right back.
It's bad.
Listen, even if the moral aspect doesn't turn you off, just prion disease, no cannibalism, prion disease.
There are actually diseases you can get by eating other flesh of human beings.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
We'll talk about that some other time. Anyway, we'll be back.
And now the Confabulators present the many sounds of Liz Strauss playing games good.
Right. I don't like.
No! Oh my gosh! What the fuck?
I don't trust anything right now. Oh God!
What the fuck?
Whoa, no.
Well, if you've just joined in, like I said, if you were here to watch somebody skillfully play this game, you really came to the wrong fucking place.
Chris is in the wrong place, Jessica's in the wrong outfit, Jill and Parker are being told that they don't even get to leave, so you know what, guys? We're all fucked up here.
You have a guitar, Sheriff.
It's my melee weapon. Be careful, right there.
Shit, he's right behind me. Ah, there's both of them! No! They came from both directions! I went one way and I turned and he was in the other!
Okay, the hope for this is that it's not... I need to just... Fuck.
If you want to hear more of these sounds, please check out her channel at Lady Hyacinth 57 on Twitch. Thank you!
Howdy everyone, Dave here of the Confabulators. I just wanted to mention that my stream on Twitch is at twitch.tv/sheriff_Flynn, where I play a wide variety of games, usually with a horror theme. Sometimes they are FMVs, sometimes they are something such as a Metroidvania. And I will often upload those to my YouTube channel, Sheriff Flynn, where you can find anything that you might have missed from last time. Thank you very much, and keep on listening, friends.
Awesome.
Hey Voidwalkers, it's your editor, E here, with an important message. Yes, an important message. About raccoon dogs. Did you know that raccoon dogs, Tanaki, are quite possibly one of the most adorable animals to grace the earth? That's right! With their cute sniffers, their adorable masks, and fluffy fur, the Tanaki is perhaps one of the cutest animals to exist on our beautiful planet. And, for the Japanese raccoon dog, they come in two subspecies. The Hondo Tanaki, found throughout most of Honshu, and the Eizo Tanaki, found in the colder climes of Hokkaido. And now you know just a little more about raccoon dogs. Have a good day, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Hey.
And an A from the puppy.
We're back.
Yep.
A dinosaur story.
Yes.
He's a little Arthur Tate'sarelli. There's a
Potato
potato in there
pupper
somewhere.
potty time. Potato pupper party time. Way away.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
Wait.
So we finally got off of
Neon Demon.
the Neon Demon.
I think we've exhausted Neon Demon.
Yes.
I will, as a last remark, I will give the movie that cinematography, there are some beautiful shots in it.
Mm.
It's very
Beautiful
very
shots.
art house.
Yeah. Very
Um,
art house, and in that regard, definitely a beautiful film as the cinematography goes. Maybe lacking in the story.
You know, one that was also very beautiful cinematography wise, that I think did a better job is Black Swan.
You know, that was one I still need to watch, but I can see that. I've enough
Dario
of the reviews.
Argento's Black Swan.
Well, wasn't he the one who did Suspiria in 2017?
Probably.
Wait,
I
Argento?
think he was. I think Argento also did the newer Suspiria, which
No, Argento
explains
does the
that.
original Suspiria.
Oh, okay. He did the original. I'm mixing them up. He did the original, but I'm not surprised because although the original to me had some things lacking in story, it does have that visual element. So he got even better when he did Black Swan.
I believe it's Dario
gross.
Argento. Let me double check.
Yeah, I was on
I
a
want to
look.
be sure.
Interesting connection.
That's Darren Aronofsky.
Darren Aronofsky.
Yeah, them's very different actor or directors.
Okay.
Yeah. Look,
We're just mixing up everybody right now.
Their first names start with a D,
and their last name starts
start
with
an A, and they're both fancy lads.
That's fair. That's fair.
There's always the accusations that Black Swan is heavily cribbing on, I think, Perfect Blue. I know it's a Satoshi Kon film, and I think it's or Satoshi Kon film, and I think it's Perfect Blue.
Yeah.
Interesting
which
to
is
me
another
because...
beauty one.
Oh yeah.
Well, and I was just thinking, and Natalie Portman also jump over to Annihilation.
Yeah.
Another one that sort of it approaches beauty in a much more Lovecraftian way.
Yeah.
But also, again,
it kind of cribs off of my favorite Lovecraft story, The Color Out of Space.
Yeah.
Um,
They all seem to be stories, though, that definitely are looking at beauty.
Yeah.
Through a different lens. I still love the scene in Annihilation when Portman's character and the other scientist come across the people, the plants that were once people, and the flowers, and there's such a haunting beauty to that moment. And then I believe it's the scientist who's like, this is beautiful. Like, this is beautiful, and at the same time you're getting this horror from Portman's character because she's looking at it on a more cellular level, and she's like, these things are impossible. They're literally, their physical structure is scientifically impossible. And that sort of horror of, it's right here in front of me, but it makes no sense because there is no way that this can make sense.
Yeah.
You know, it's not even like science. It's science you don't understand yet. It's like somebody subverting the law of gravity, something that's fundamental universally.
Yeah. And to note, this is a very different story than the book.
Yes.
The book is incredibly different,
and based off of its own book too.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like, I really thought that there's a lot of beautiful visuals in Annihilation. And they tell things in their beauty, mainly like the eeriness, like an alien beauty that's very difficult to describe, if not impossible. And just how that eeriness and beauty can change a person.
It leans into an element of, I would say, is beauty that's like maybe more quietly dealt with in other things. Actually, Neon Demon addresses it too, of beauty as intimidating and danger. And Neon Demon does it in the form of the other women who feel threatened by this young woman who seems to have that factor, has, to borrow from Maxine trilogy, the X factor.
And to borrow from the one scene in the restaurant where the guy asks the boyfriend, hey, why are you with her? And he's like, well, like, cause I am. And like, he goes on about it being about beauty and age, and the guy,
and that beauty is only,
like, no.
Well, and that he's like, only natural beauty is true beauty.
Yeah. Like, he basically dunked on the older model by saying, yeah, the younger one's beautiful because she's younger, so fuck you.
Yeah, and then dunks on essentially the other, and anybody who uses plastic surgery, of like, you can't fix it.
Yeah.
And I think it gets on an element of beauty from an outside perspective, beauty can be beautiful, but it can also be threatening because there's an element of trying to make sense of where beauty exists when it doesn't exist in other places, when it's that element of perceived beauty. And I think a little bit it's played in social dramas more as, well, this person worked really hard to achieve it and this person just has it, and now we're threatened because somebody somehow naturally has it. And I think Annihilation takes it to Annihilation, and even Color Out of Space and Lovecraft in general, they take it to almost a cosmic level where these things are beautiful and they're terrifying at the same time because we don't know how to explain them and how to quantify them.
Yeah.
But they're also beautiful and we don't understand it. And so it, in essence, becomes a fear of the unknown. And I think that's something, there is a line, an underlying element in a lot of horror of beauty being something scary because we don't understand it. I mean,
yeah,
you see it portrayed all over the place in less nuanced ways of beauty resulting from demons, monsters, supernaturals, deals with the devil, witchcraft, you name it. But it's all centering on this, trying to explain something that occurred naturally, or that seems to have occurred naturally, that the other party doesn't really understand. So,
Yeah.
which is fascinating. It takes it to a cosmic level.
Yeah. And, you know, speaking of, well, I guess not cosmic level, but kind of bringing it a little to Neon Demon and a little to Annihilation, cosmic stuff. I guess more to vampire than anything, but still related to beauty. I wanted to bring up a book in particular, this book here, which I know it's hard to see, but it's
Youth
called
Juice?
Youth Juice.
Okay,
It was
I was
on
making
Blurred
sure
for
I
a
was
second
reading
there.
that correctly.
What was that, E?
It definitely appeared for a second before it blurred back out again.
Yeah. So apologies. That's my camera. But yeah, it's by E.K. Sathu. I hope I pronounced that right. And it's like a mix of American Psycho and Black Christmas, with a little bit of Elizabeth Bathory in there, if you're familiar with that historical figure.
Oh, yeah.
So it's about a young woman who gets involved in this company that makes beauty products, you know, and it's where she discovers that the lady in charge has this new product called Youth Juice that she asks the protagonist to try. Because the protagonist has like some sort of thing going on with her hand, where her hand has kind of not aged, but like it's like an accident or something happened to it, so there's like a little scarring and such. To where she like wears gloves to hide it. So she tries it, and it not only does it make her hand youthful and makes that stuff go away, but like it is pristine. But she has to keep applying it. And all the while she's staying with a friend of hers who's pretty big in the fashion industry. And her friend kind of just doesn't care because her friend is rich already. Like, she was born into a rich family, so she just kind of does what she wants, takes a lot of drugs and stuff like that. But it addresses a lot of things, like when the protagonist discovers that there's some problems with the product, the CEO is like, basically uses feminism as a cudgel to shut her up. And it goes into this whole thing where you find out that interns keep missing for a very specific reason. It's a really good book. I don't want to go much further than that. I really want you to read it.
Dave.
I'm going on to my Libby account and literally like
Dave.
looking it up. I also just added Color Out of Space.
Yeah.
Dave.
Youth Juice, yeah.
I gotta ask the obvious thing because it's burning a hole in my brain. Is youth juice people?
Is it?
Youth juice is people.
Begs the
Youth juice is
question.
people. I can't do the Soylent Green voice.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to mimic Charlton Heston.
No.
I think that was who it was.
Yes, that is Charlton Heston and Soylent Green.
Yeah. But it's a fantastic book, and I highly recommend it.
Well, I just added it to my want to read list on Libby and placed it on hold for the audiobook. So
good. One more that I want to mention, just in brief, because it is brief. It's a music video. I don't think we've mentioned music videos before on this show, but
Okay.
I haven't come up much. Yeah, I'm curious now.
Yes. So it's by this band called Simian Mobile Disco. And it's a fairly old, like, I'd probably put it in like early 2000s, but I could be wrong. It's called Hustler. Now, there's 2 music videos. Okay? I'm not talking about the one that starts as a game of telephone and ends with a massive makeout session.
Okay.
Talking about the other one that has a lot of really sexy models in bikinis with a lot of money and jewelry and things like that. And then as it goes on, they turn into demons and are overly consuming things. It
looks like that was the one that came up first on YouTube or on Google search. And like it just starts right away with models.
Yeah, but both of them seem to be by the same group. It's just different music videos. I don't know why that's the case, but it is.
Oh. I probably part of it's probably an element of we had 2 ideas for interpreting this, so rather than picking one over the other, we just said fuck it and made both.
Well, to be fair, the one is pretty easy to make. It's just set a camera in the middle of a bunch of women and have it slowly rotate around as they go from telephone to kissing.
Well, and that's, and in that regard, it's, if production-wise they're not both super, super hard to make, like one's really easy, then it makes it more feasible to say, fuck it, make both of them.
Yeah.
But the first one to come up when I searched it, like it didn't even bring up the second music video. It brought up the one that you said was the better one.
I think, well, I didn't necessarily say is better. I think they're both interesting in their own ways, but that one's more related to what we're talking about.
Yeah, it brought that one up first, so I'm guessing that's probably been the more popular of the 2.
Yeah. But it's pretty neat. I think that one's on the Wichita Records YouTube channel, not the Simian Mobile Disco Vivo. No,
yeah, it's the Wichita Records.
Oh, it is? Oh, okay, yeah.
Well, it's literally YouTube is Wichita Records channel.
Okay, that's it. Yep.
But I Google searched Simian Mobile Disco Hustler.
Yeah.
So.
So if you want a wild, quick, like 3.5-4 minute ride of beauty and horror, and with an awesome beat to it, there you go.
Get those dance beats on. Those beats. You mentioned a music video, and it makes me kind of want to just, even if it's just briefly touch on. It was something after, it was sort of a last minute realization yesterday, so I rewatched it, but a different take on, but I think fits in with beauty and horror. Repo the Genetic Opera.
Okay.
Which, have either of you watched it?
I did not have time this time, I'm afraid.
That is fair. It is one that I'm sure those who know it and are probably going about it. It's an indie film that was made several years ago. My roommate got me to watch it. She loved it. It is an actual opera. It's a rock opera, but it is an actual opera in that the narrative is told through music. So this isn't like a music where you have songs interspersed with the narrative. This is really, the narrative is told through music. It's also very dystopian sci-fi plus noir, plus comic book. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, the director for Repo, actually, most of his other credits are as a storyboard artist on other productions. So, but he also acts in it as well as the grave robber, who also serves to be the narrator. So kind of opens the book and closes the book of the story with his own story. But the premise being essentially it looks at a what if in the future people get surgery as a commodity. Surgery basically becomes so accessible that it's a commodity people get, and because it's so expensive, this company starts offering people that they can finance organ replacements, whatever their surgery is. Basically, cosmetic surgery goes beyond just getting fixing your face. It's like, oh, I need a new liver because my liver's fucked up. Let me just go get it. I can't afford it, so I'm going to finance it. And the idea being, though, that if you miss payments, they're going to come send repo men to literally repossess the organs. Mm-hmm. And the story itself is a tragedy. And, but what struck me in it was that amidst all this layering of horror, like it's very gory at times, it's supposed to be, it's very sort of operatic tragedy, is that opera is an art form. It's an art form with a long history as being something, people go to the theater to see an opera. You dress up to go to the opera. I mean, there is a beauty to opera, but when you actually look at a lot of these operas out there, these classic operas, some of their stories are really, really unhinged. Like, people are like, yeah, this piece is so famous, but it's actually this character having like a psychotic break and everything. And in that regard, this movie is just more overtly horrific because it can be, and also it's being sung in English, so it makes a lot more sense for the most part. So, hey, you don't have to sit there and guess at or be like, oh, that's a pretty song that I have no idea what it's about because I don't understand Italian, Mm-hmm. But just that in that regard, because the story is really a tragedy, which is another common thing in opera, is that it's a tragedy. And this is exactly that. And so there's so much to me, it was very layered of this is very beautiful way to tell a very horrific story. Yeah, a very tragic story.
Like, this is a side note, but I don't think you start getting more, like narrative tonally variation until the opera starts to spin off the operetta, which is like the operetta. I should note is a distinct form compared to opera. If memory serves, I think it basically is like little opera, and so you start to get away from like the full form of what opera is, so you have a little more room to play, and then eventually operetta is what ends up giving us the modern musical.
Yeah,
well,
which is more music and narrative mixed together, but you still have largely in a lot of, and it's why musicals have a lot of trouble on the screen because they tend to run long. And the songs can tend to be long. And in a stage production, you can work with that. It works because it's stage. You have this sort of alternate heightened reality sense. Yeah. And it has trouble there. It's difficult to translate that onto film.
Exactly.
And still retain that dazzling nature that comes with seeing something on stage that is sort of an altered reality perception. And in that regard, Repo very much succeeds, and because one could argue, well, opera has the same thing, and I'm like, Repo leans into what it is. It's not just that it's opera, but it's a rock opera being told in a very artistic noir style. I mean, we're talking like major filters on the lens to blow out colors and to really heighten contrast. So it becomes much more of an art form because they said, we're going to do all the, and who knows, maybe some of it was a strategy to disguise the fact that it was not necessarily a high budget production, that this is more of an indie piece, but it works because it effectively lends a huge amount of stylization to it that takes it to the next level and allows the music to really speak for the story and you not be distracted by, this or that. And there's a lot that goes on visually in it, but it really it's to me what struck me though was this element of telling this horrifically tragic story, and it is a true tragedy. I mean, it's like guy falls in love with a woman and then she gets sick and then he tries to help her and instead she violently ends up in this massive episode, and so he's left with only one choice to help her because she's pregnant too and she's dying and he can only save one, so he has to literally cut his child from his wife. Ooh. And his wife dies, and the guy who's been rejected by the wife, like the former lover, is all like, I'm going to use this to my advantage and spin this whole thing, and meanwhile the guy is having a whole crisis of he loved his wife, he truly, and now all he's got left is his daughter, and so he's trying to shelter her from the world because the world is dangerous. In the meantime, because he technically killed his wife, even though he didn't mean to, the other guy's like manipulating him for revenge and is like, oh, you're gonna be, ruined with this, so come work for me, and he becomes a repo man. And so this guy has kind of this double identity where he struggles with this very murderous, sinister, maniacal side. And Anthony Stewart Head plays, Frank Wallace, the Repo Man.
I didn't realize it had him in it. Okay.
Oh, and he is wonderful. I have been struck many times from the soundtrack, which is most of the story, because again, narrative told through music. So there are a few particular pieces. I want to say I Remember is one of the later ones, and then there is a piece, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on its name, but he has a solo piece earlier in the story. Before he sings Thankless Job, it's his piece right before there. So if you're looking at the score, it's his solo piece before he is that, where he basically, a couple times in the music, you hear the character devolve. And it's beautifully done. And in contrast, you get a lot of these people who have much more either rock-length voices or untrained voices, not necessarily like super trained voices. And then they have Sarah Brightman in there, who literally is like, the gold standard for these things. I mean, I don't know if you guys know it, but Andrew Lloyd Webber specifically wrote Christine Daae. She was the original Christine Daae in Phantom of the Opera. He specifically wrote that role for Sarah Brightman.
Oh, wow.
For her voice. And that's why it's also like noted for having some of like the double high E that is held, because Sarah Brightman was very capable of achieving that. She is a very, very highly trained musical and opera singer.
Yeah.
So, but it struck me though, and I would highly encourage you both to watch it.
I'm going to try to make
very
time
interesting.
soon.
Yeah, it's a
And
very
also,
interesting take.
Not to confuse this with the two other similarly named things, including the one with the similar plot. I forget. This actually this predates Repo Men, right?
Yes, I believe so.
The
it
Jude
was
Law?
in the earlier. It predates that. But it was kind of rising in popularity at the same time. This one predates. I want to say there was actually a short film, Repo the Genetic Opera. It was the same director. He did a short film version, which was how he actually pitched it to studios. Hilarious thing I discovered was the short film had the Repo Man being played by, oh my gosh, his name escapes me, but he plays Merle in The Walking Dead. And also,
fuck that guy. Same guy who's Guardians
of the
Yondu,
Galaxy
yes.
as well. Yeah, he actually played played Frank Wallace or the Repo Man in the short, but and both times the director plays the role of the grave robber and everything. But it's very interesting. It's worth the watch, especially if you've had any curiosity of thank you. If you've had any curiosity about opera as a narrative form, and it's a different approach that I think for some people is maybe a little more comfortable because it's not classical opera, it's rock opera, so it's got a lot more. And it's got a lot more musical variety in it. There's a couple songs in it that are like, oh, this is annoying. But it's like, okay, but it has that variance that comes with rock, too. So, certain songs, like 17's like one of those songs that you're like, oh, this is kind of an annoying song, but I get why it's here. So, in the narrative, Alexa Vega is the daughter in it. There's a few other, actually Paris Hilton's in it. It's just kind of astounding. She plays a very bratty character. She plays a rich brat.
Okay.
I mean, I always got the impression that a lot of our public perception of Paris Hilton was less that Paris Hilton is actually airheaded, so on and so forth, rich girl, and more is no, Paris Hilton is I mean, she's still Nepo baby, but she's also probably a lot more savvy than you give her credit for. I think a lot of her public persona is a character she plays based on what you expect her, exaggerates aspects of herself in order to. Again, we go back to selling people as commodity without with the enslavement aspect.
And that's
Ugh.
literally the character she plays. She plays one of 3 children that are seem to be like the children of royalty. They're the children of the CEO of the giant company that now runs everything and everything. And so she literally plays a rich Nepo baby who is just like obsessed with surgery, addicted to painkillers, and, you know, all me. And frankly, she does a great job at it, you know?
I was just also
Yeah.
gonna say, I was gonna say, can we find Ron Perlman on Cameo and get him to just read Aristocracy? Aristocracy never changes.
I mean, I'm sure we could get the money for that if he's on there.
Yeah.
Um,
But I wanted to bring that one up, though, because it was one that I realized the other day. And because of some of the stuff they use, the story itself can fall into a few categories, because it's also future sci-fi dystopian. But to be honest, the more I looked at it, I'm like, this is a horror element. It is more talking about societal horror rather than something supernatural. But it is horror, and the Repo Men are the monsters.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Frank Wallace
We're
is a
repossessing
monster.
organs.
Yeah, and they are not shy of showing that it's horrific, and that he really is, in that regard, in like society now. This would be, you're a murderer, you're a psychopath, you know.
yeah.
So it was a fascinating little like indie look that I realized I'd had in my library of things I'd seen over years, and then it wasn't until I noticed it when it's going through my streaming stuff, and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, this is. And again, what fascinated me was that sort of beauty and horror, and that it also was taking a very classical art form that's considered very high art, very beautiful, and taking a very different approach to it. That's very different from the classical approach, but still ultimately ends up being literally that. I mean, it is defined as an opera. Now, you'll see it on some services listed as a musical, but it's like, you know, I was looking around online, and they're like, it's an opera. Narrative is told through music and song.
Okay, I was going to ask like, is there any spoken word dialogue, or is it all?
There is a small amount of spoken word, and that was kind of I remember my roommate and I having a discussion about that ages ago, and I was kind of on there is some spoken stuff, but the narrative is really told through the music.
Okay.
The narrative is told through the music, whereas the spoken dialogue
that's
is
still not musical, but I was just wondering if it was opera or operetta. So that's just me being a
There's
pedantic
some spoken word, but it's
nonsense.
more in support. It is more spoken word where it's more supplemental.
Gotcha. So still closer to opera than operetta.
Much closer to opera.
And still nowhere near musical.
Yes, yeah, very far from musical.
Yeah.
So, but that was a fascinating thing going into this, of realizing I'm like, this is
theatrical forms.
Yeah, beautiful and terrifying at the same time.
So, speaking of terrifying and beautiful, I want to bring up the
but
movie
not Terrifier.
No. We've had enough Terrifier in our podcast.
That's
no
terrifying.
clowns
and ugly.
allowed.
Yeah. So, I want to bring up a movie. I believe it's from the 1980s, and I saw it when it was out on VHS and such. And not too long ago, I did kind of a rewatch of it. Death Becomes Her.
Oh, that's on my watch list.
It's on your watch list?
Yeah,
have
I
you
just haven't
seen
gotten.
it, E?
I have not, but I know of it.
Okay.
Yep.
So
we are talking Meryl Streep, Bruce Willis. That one I'm making.
Meryl Streep,
yeah,
Bruce
it's on.
Willis, Goldie Hawn.
I've seen clips enough to know I would love to watch it, and it finally is available on multiple streaming services. So it is on the I will watch this list.
So I want you to still watch it, even as I spoil it.
Oh, I've seen the ending.
Okay.
It's actually the
Spoilers
clips
mean
that got
nothing to me here.
some of the finale and the very final scene I have seen.
So it's a movie about these two women who want this one guy. And this guy, Bruce Willis, he is somebody who does a lot of makeup work on bodies, and he's really good at it. And these two women, Goldie Hawn was initially with him, but he decided to leave her for Meryl Streep, who is an author, I believe, in the story. And so Goldie Hawn, like, I believe she attempts to like kill her.
Yeah.
But then like gets caught, goes to prison, then comes out and lives in like a shitty apartment that's like full, like not even taken care of. Like she gets really big and all that. And meanwhile, Meryl Streep is having like woes. A little reminds me of She Devil, another Meryl Streep movie where she plays a well-to-do author type who steals another man, who steals a man from another woman. But in this, like, she's, complaining about like her body starting to age, because it jump cuts in time. And Bruce Willis, he like his hands are shaky, so he can't do his job as well anymore. And like, I'll cut to the chase. Because of Meryl Streep's obsession with beauty, she finds out about this place, and she goes to this place, and this like kind of stereotypical Egyptian-looking lady presents her with this formula, and she demonstrates by pricking her on the finger and then putting a tiny drop on that prick. And not only does it heal, it makes her much younger in that one spot where she sees it glow. And she's like, oh wow, that's amazing. So she's all in, and she's like, how much does it cost? And the lady's like, it does not cost anything. And she's like, what does it cost? And she's like, you'll find out, but take it. And so she does. And then Bruce is
because
tired
of course
her.
you ask about the fine print, but then when somebody says you'll find out, you go, okay, that's acceptable.
Yeah. I think part of her drive to that was seeing Goldie Hawn kind of renovate herself a little bit.
Yeah.
Because she loses weight and all that stuff and comes back, and Bruce Willis falls in love with her again. So she and Bruce plot to kill Meryl Streep, and Bruce and Streep have an argument, and he accidentally pushes her off the stairs, and she tumbles down, and like all her body is broken. And then it starts reforming back into place as he's like talking to Goldie Hawn in a panic, trying to figure out what the hell to do. Cut forward a little bit, Goldie Hawn appears, and Meryl Streep and her fight, and she puts a hole through Goldie Hawn, like through her midsection. Turns out she also had the same thing, right?
Yeah, that's the scene I've seen for it.
and they're like, you took it. And so they start squabbling over that. And all the while, Bruce Willis is like, I just want to be left alone now. I'm scared. But it's their obsessions that drove them to this lady, right? And to get this eternal juice, which if you pay attention, all the people who've taken it have stayed in that mansion. They have not left that mansion other than these two. And they are trying to get Bruce Willis to go and get the thing as well, because he's like, yeah, I'm shaky, I'm getting older, yada yada. And so like he doesn't really believe it at first, but he doesn't have the obsession that they do. And so when he's like, he gets the pinprick test, he's like, that's fascinating, but I don't want to live forever. Like, why would I want to do that? It sucks.
To live
and so
forever.
it turns into like a whole chase scene and everything like that, and he winds up dying, and eventually he winds up dying, and like Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep show up to his funeral, and like they start laughing as they're leaving, and then they trip and they fall down the stairs because cans of paint that they've had to use to spray their skin to make it look like a normal color and not stone gray caused them to trip and fall down the stairs and shatter into pieces.
Yes. Yeah, because at that point, I think it's like he dies at the end. It's like they actually are going to like his funeral, like as an old man. So, but it's like, but their bodies keep repairing themselves, but not quite. So they're sort of falling apart. They're like held together by like spirit gum and like foundation sort of thing.
Yeah, they become basically gargoyles or statues in a sense, but they're living and they're mobile. But yeah, they just break apart real easily because they don't take care of themselves. They kind of just live, and they're stuck eternally like that.
Yeah. They're
The
basically
one thing
walking dead, where it's like, oh, look, your thumb fell off. Well, just it's not going to heal itself. Just tie it back on.
but here's the thing that I think people.
Oh God, yeah,
who,
I'm looking at the stills right now. Oh my God.
Yeah. I think there's a thing that a lot of people who watch the movie don't catch on to. Bruce Willis is also partly at fault. Like, all three of them are at fault in varying ways, right?
I was just thinking that of him, like, he's as much of a scumbag as they are.
Yes, he is. And if he had taken it, I wouldn't have been surprised. I'd have been like, yeah, y'all deserve each other. But he doesn't.
The fact that he perpetuates the plot to murder the other, and he can't decide between these women, he, like, leaves one for the other because the other one's more beautiful. It's sort of like, dude, you're just as bad. You're just as bad. You're fueling this obsession with youth and vitality in this woman, and then when you're offered it, you're like, well, I couldn't bear it. I want to sit there and be like, oh, hypocrite much? You've been fueling these ladies' obsessions.
Yeah. If anything, he's more at fault. Because he pits them against each other because he goes from one to the other, and because he's so vain that he only looks for beauty in a woman. The one they both go, I need to be more beautiful, and so they go so far as to take this weird, bizarre drug that has no like science behind it, and they get condemned to eternal life. And then when he gets the same offer, he's like, no. It's like, you put them in this position, you piece of shit. What are you doing?
I was like, his vanity is the vanity of wanting to be that no matter what he is, he has beautiful women on his heels. Kind of wanting to be the Hugh. He wants to be the Hugh Hefner that, you know, I've got the pretty models on my waist every time, even though I'm really a skeevy old man.
And he just looks like a schlub. He's
so good at playing it too.
No offense to people who are kind of schlubby. I'm kind of schlubby, but like I would not do something like that.
What's his name from like the principal from Sabrina the Teenage Witch? I forget the actor's name.
Yes. Yeah. Who's kind of also shades of the teacher in Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
Martin Mull's who I'm thinking of.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yes. Feeney.
But he is
Feeney. That was not Martin Mull, by the way. That's oh god, what is Feeney's actor's name? Feeney's
but
William Daniels.
But he is such a toxic piece of shit that he drove two women to be condemned to this eternal life and to be just shattered and broken on the floor while he gets to move on and just be dead. And he gets away with it. He gets away with it.
You know what's hysterical is that goes right back to Neon Demon's theme.
Yeah,
of these people being pitted against. Yeah, it's still better done. It's these women, and so it's a common thing that we see is these people talking about beauty through the lens of beauty becoming the prize in a competition that's being manufactured by those who really have no right to have any say in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but this was done in like 1992, so of course that makes sense for the time.
Yeah. What's funny is that in of itself, and I feel like this segues as well into
was 1992 more woke than we think? Ooh.
Maybe it was.
Mean, I don't know. It depends on how you view Death Becomes Her. If you view it as the women's fault or if you view it as the man's fault.
I think everybody sucks.
It's the man's fault, mostly.
But definitely
the women suck. But yeah, he's the driving force of suckitude.
Yeah. By that extension, though, it's funny
systemic solutions.
Yeah. What this feeds into, though, is hilariously to me. This feeds into us kind of turning to Suspiria, which now moves away from women being pitted against each other over beauty, because the the masterminds of the horror, and I'm thinking more of the 2017. I've now watched
Mhm.
both. I watched the 1977 movie, which hilariously, the 2017 one is also set in 1977. But the big thing I was reading online was pointing out was that the big change is that the newer movie sets itself, instead of kind of a sort of fictional province of Germany, the newer one sets itself in Berlin in divided Berlin. So it brings in a very political atmosphere because you get mention of literal events happening, like the hostages and all these other things that are very deeply part of what is especially culture in Berlin at the time.
Yeah.
But, I honestly think you would enjoy it, David, especially you've got a lot more knowledge of German history and culture. I think you would find the 2017 one especially interesting in that regard.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I haven't. The closest from what you're saying that I've seen is the Lives of Others. That's the translation. Yeah, The Lives of Others, which is a phenomenal movie, but it's not horror.
I definitely recommend Suspiria. It's one that after I first watched it, I felt like I needed to digest it again. And I do plan to watch it again, but even just sitting on it now since then, and after having watching the original, I definitely am like going, okay, I actually really like what this is doing. But one of the things that's different in this, and a lot of it, is then the horror in this movie is actually orchestrated by these women who run this prestigious dance academy. They are the ones who really they are the masterminds. They are the artisans of this horror that's being brought in. The two movies really take very different, have some similarities, but I will say, and I saw this written about the 2017, was that it wasn't really a true remake of the original one because they end up telling, in a lot of ways, a very different story.
Let's be blunt. As much as I like the original Suspiria, that is a movie with almost no fucking plot. It's just vibes the movie.
It is very bonkers to me. I think its plot suffered because it just didn't. I mean, it was going off into Evil Dead territory in the climax, and I'm like, the fuck? Yeah, you know what part I was freaking out about, but visually it's beautiful. What I think the 2017 one does well is it still is very visually beautiful. It's a little less abstraction and more grounds itself in kind of the beauty of the lives and that these are women living in a very, very volatile Berlin. But they're women from all walks of life. I mean, one is and it's just an offhand, you only hear her speak once. There's one character who's Russian. Madame Blanc, played by Tilda Swinton, is English. Mia Goth is actually in it also as Sarah. Also, it's like Mia Goth in what I'm assuming is more her native accent, I believe, which is like, oh, wow, Mia Goth not playing this little Texas Southerner. She's excellent in it. Honestly, but you get these women from kind of all walks of life, and it's even alluded to of they live in such a volatile city, but they're trying to create beauty despite all of that. What I also love about it is that it places the dance. I honestly felt like it was a missed opportunity in the original one, that it's a dance school and you see dancing in one scene in the entire movie. And this one makes the dance part of the narrative. Like, the dance is part of how this witchcraft is being conducted. They're using dance, so it lends itself to really, and also because dance, again, another beautiful art form, but the very first time you see Dakota Johnson's character dance when she basically auditions, she basically goes in and they're like, okay, now that you're here, we want to see you dance. And the dance she does is honestly, it's both beautiful and monstrous. At one point, she does this reverse crawl that literally reminds me of when you see films portray a demon skittering along the ground. She does this sort of all limbs, all on all fours crawl that is impressive. And so, but I think it's funny because to me, Suspiria takes a different level because now it's it's not women competing for beauty, but there's an edge of dominance of like vitality, where there are these older women who are trying to gain vitality and longevity, but it's a power play. It's a power dynamic of these older women who are more senior, who are preying upon these younger women who are here because they want to dance and they want to do this thing. So it's a much more like a survival thing. It's almost more about survival, and in that regard, it's an interesting contrast to these other films where there's a much more patriarchal element of, like Bruce Willis's character being the one that really pits Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep against each other. Whereas in this one, the men who appear in the newer Suspiria, these women, it's in that regard, is a very of, we don't need these men. Like, there's a point that's sort of terrifying where Dakota Johnson's character sees kind of is sneaking through like an office because they're trying to figure out what happened to this other young woman, Patricia, who's left the school and then disappeared. And she goes into a back room because she hears something, and behind a bookshelf she sees these older women who are some of the mistresses of the academy, and these two detectives, who are both standing there naked from the waist down in these strange trances while these women laugh at their parts. Like, laugh at them and have these sort of giggly, like young teenagers or little kids type giggly sort of like hee this. And so it's a sort of, we're turning the tables, nefarious kind of element. In the meantime, they have, there's an older gentleman, the psychiatrist, who begins investigating because the woman who's disappeared was his patient. And in the meantime, you also get and in the meantime, he's also struggling with the loss of his wife who he loved. But he's looking at this all much more objectively, but also much more he's trying to understand what's happening, and he's also suffered a loss that he's never had resolved because he doesn't know what became of his wife. Interesting, too, he is also one of 3 characters played by Tilda Swinton in that movie. Because that woman is a chameleon. She plays the dance instructor, she plays the psychiatrist, and she plays, I want to say Madame Markle is her character, who you don't physically see until much later in the film, but you hear about her. So, but it's very fascinating to me, because it's sort of a looking at beauty in a way that's dangerous, and yet I don't feel like the film ever portrays beauty itself as dangerous. It's much more, I think, about the community of women, and kind of, and in a sense is looking at kind of how society and tradition have kind of dictated women to be the beauties, and then the sort of resilience behind that and the community that forms as a result of that, because it's also how women can get victimized. But at the same time, within this film, these women are victimizing other women. So it's very, very fascinating. The dance is gorgeous, and if nothing else, the original to me has all the pretty architecture, has all the like the sort of visual haunting that lends this sort of otherworldliness, but what it lacks everywhere else is kind of story and character building, whereas this one jumps in, and again, it's a missed opportunity to not have it set in a dance school and barely show us dance, and this one really puts the dance at the forefront to help you kind of see how they're using dance to survive, because it's what the world sees them as, is this prestigious elite dance academy. But it is also how they're conducting these horrible things.
Like, I need to watch more Argento now, but one thing, looking into some stuff, that I wonder to a degree what extent that, like, the way Italian film was being made back in the day kind of compromises the original Suspiria. Because my understanding is, like, that industry was very much akin to, like, you have to put shit out and you have to keep it going. like even
Yeah.
more so than Hollywood has ever been. So it's like as I think about it through that lens, the original Suspiria, and maybe we're getting away from a little bit of theme necessarily, and more like the way production impacts the development of narrative and theme, is that the way I look at the original Suspiria after watching it is like there is very little plot there. There is very little coherent narrative. It feels like it is a vessel to give you a horror movie. If it is a
Yeah.
vessel for scares and shocks and suspense, but it doesn't really. It's like a nightmare in a way, and I'm not sure if that
It's
is intentionally constructed in that discordant way of dream logic, or if it's just the necessity of we need to hit this, we need to hit this, we need to hit this. We need to see this on screen. We need to see that on screen. We need the bad room. We got to get to the bad room.
it was a bad room. That was a bad room.
That is a very bad room. I don't want to be. I don't like that. It's like, why is it? It's like, is it? Why
Dave,
just,
do you want to know what the bad room was?
do you want?
Sure.
The bad room was, look at this nice innocent, like somewhat ominous room. This little high window that this girl crawls through into this ominous
Look,
room.
it's
that has these weird
escape!
tools on the wall, but then she lands in what is literally a floor that is like all razor wire.
Yep.
And not
then
like
she
a
has
little
to-
layer. It's like she falls into a pit of razor wire. She dies buried in razor wire.
She has to swim through the razor wire to get to a door that she can't reach, and then when she's just close enough, then she gets stabbed.
Well, because the problem is that, well, they do finally kill her, but she already was dying because the problem is she hurts herself by trying to move in the razor wire. So it's the catch-22 of if she doesn't move, then whoever's chasing, then the monster's chasing her will definitely get her. But if she moves, she's still going to die because this razor wire is cutting her every time she moves.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Surprisingly less gory than you would think, though. It's like she.
Yeah.
Which
It was the after effect when they showed her corpse later that they decided to dress up the gore. I'm like, okay, if you handed this to like Rob Zombie now, it would have just been literally like,
God, I
blood
don't want to
spatter
see.
fest.
I don't want to see Rob Zombie's version of the bad room. I don't. But think about think about beauty in the original Suspiria. That is an absolutely gorgeous film. The way they shot it, both the cinematography and the lighting, like from the moment they made leaving an airport terminal feel like magic to me.
Huh.
Like it uses color in a very deliberate way. Like it honestly, I would say it is very. If the scene is red, that's deliberate.
Oh yeah.
Because and like even within scenes, they'll shift out of the color. It kind of to me became an element of red symbolizes kind of this place is another world and it's not a good world.
It's like when they're in the dormitory and you see the silhouette of the directress, Helena Marcos, snoring behind them, and everything's just bathed in like all of the fucking red gel you could possibly imagine.
Yeah, I think the film's justification partly about it is that all the windows are these stained glass windows that are predominantly red. So it's kind of how in setting they kind of set up that this is how we can get. They kind of try to ground the red a little bit by making it all stained glass that's mostly red. And so and I could see how it's kind of this way we can do this and it doesn't seem so manufactured, but it's very much, I think what you were saying earlier, E, actually really hits on it as I think there is a lot to how Italian cinema was made that dictated the way the film was made. And so they leaned into that. Like, I didn't know until last night when I looked it up because I was watching it and then realized very quickly, I'm like, this is a dub. And I kind of want to know what language this was originally in. And I Googled it. And of course, what I came across was finding out that Italian cinema at the time was still largely dubbed right from the get-go.
Yep.
Like, that they even was released with ADR, no matter what language it was released in. And I'm like, and that was what I realized, what I was asking you. I'm like, do you feel like, because I remember messaging you being like, I feel like these performances don't quite match up. Like, the ADR performance is just slightly different from the physical performance, which was what was making me want to find the original audio, and then realizing I couldn't because essentially there is essentially no original audio. It's probably been thrown out.
I actually, like, folks, a little bit of a shout out here. The Next Lander Watchcast, very good podcast about movies. Check it out if you can. I was listening today to their Suspiria podcast again. And one of the things that was pointed out there is apparently this was like one of the first films, if not the first film, that Argento actually uses at least some production audio on when going into the final edit. Like, I don't know where it was used, but apparently there are some bits where he actually finally does use some production audio in it. And
I have a suspicion about where some of it was, and that makes sense, because there's a few moments I feel like I couldn't precisely pinpoint them, but I think there are moments where the performance and the dialogue seem to align more. But for most of the film, like, I felt like it was like the performances were, and it's not even like super obvious, like I couldn't tell you what it is about it is different, but
it's
they were just slightly out of sync. Yeah, it's like the performance of the audio was just slightly out of sync with the performance in the video, because it's probably two different people, or they're being done at separate times and they're dubbing it.
And one other thing about this,
but it leads me to sit there and go, I have trouble judging these characters.
And another thing about this too, like regarding the production audio aspect, is my understanding now is, I think they also mentioned this on the Watchcast as well, they're not just speaking one language on set for the actors. Apparently they are actually speaking, at the very least, English and Italian. I don't know if there's more in play. But that's another reason why there's, like, no actual quote-unquote original audio, because the actors may indeed be speaking entirely different languages depending on who the actor is and what the lines are. So, like...
but in that regard, the visual element then becomes absolutely necessary, because you need something to visually push the narrative in a way that you might not be able to get because your performances, aren't necessarily dictating things.
Also, I will be right back, folks. I have one more thought about this. I'll carry it on when we get back if we can fit it in.
For sure. It's definitely, Dave, I will say for you, it's worth... Honestly, I'm glad I wasn't planning to watch it, but it was worth watching it to contrast with the newer one, because I think they're both trying to do some things. I think the newer one is one of those rare cases where it was more effective at what it did, but it also didn't try to be the original one completely. When I read about it online, they were like, we weren't trying to directly remake it. And I'm like, that's actually really good, because I think it would have not landed because of the weaknesses that the original one had. And this one went, we're going to land this, but we're going to tell a different story. So it's, very beautiful. It's also, I think, the only film I've seen Dakota Johnson in, and honestly, she does a good job. I just didn't realize Mia Goth was... Yeah, and I've not really been sold on her performances before, but frankly, I think she does a decent job for what the character is supposed to be. It's strongly led... I mean, Tilda Swinton could act her way out of a paper bag, honestly. I was sitting there and I went to look up something. If I hadn't seen it online, like when I went to look up, who plays this character, I think I was looking up because the actress, Chloe Grace Moretz, plays Patricia, who you see at the beginning of the film, but I didn't really realize that, and I wouldn't really recognize like her name to associate a specific film, but she looked familiar, so I went to look that up. And that's right in like the first scenes of the film. And I went to look it up, and in that moment discovered, because it said, the professor who's also played, or the psychiatrist who's also played by Tilda Swinton. And in that moment I went, wait, if you hadn't told me that, I'd have just thought that was an old man, and maybe eventually been like, he seems like he's in a relation, has a resemblance to Tilda Swinton, and that they could be related, maybe. But honestly, if I hadn't read that, I probably would not have realized that it was also Tilda Swinton playing the old man. She assumes the nuance and the demeanor very well, and the makeup is extremely well done, which is just like, wow, Now, was there a reason behind her playing so many roles other than she just plain wanted to? Which I'm like, hey, more power to you if you like doing that. That's a lot of prosthesis to go through.
Yeah.
So, but
return.
it may have convinced me, though, that, she is another person who is absolutely a master of what they do. And I love that she's done other really random things, like showing up in What We Do in the Shadows, like the head of, as the MC of the council. And so then she's sitting there and they're like, it's this, and she's hissing across the room. I'm like, this woman is wonderful at drama, and she's also can just be absolute comedy. She wants to be.
Yeah. I'm very curious about her in that movie. We Don't Talk About Kevin, or something like that.
She is in that, isn't she? Yeah.
TV show.
She's on like, the poster.
She was actually, of all the things, and it's funny because she's somebody who I think just, kind of on a whim picks what she wants to do, because she's shown up in odd places. She was in Ted as and I realized I didn't recognize her because they gave her like long, like brown with highlights hair and made her and she was his boss, or like the woman who's like running the boss office. But it's like, she looked so different from what we know her as, even though it really was just, they did the makeup and gave her the hair of like, somebody with long brown hair, that it was like, the fuck? You look completely different. So then this is why I say she's a chameleon too.
Yeah.
That she can just sort of morph. She has the ability as an actress to really morph into a role in a way that is more than like character act, that almost goes beyond character acting, because it's kind of like a lot of the people I see as character actors, you still kind of know it's them playing the character, and it's like, this is beyond it. It's like you don't even realize it's her.
Yeah.
Unless you know it's her.
So,
which is fascinating to
okay.
me. But yes, you had an extra thought on Suspiria?
Yes. So, in regards to beauty and horror, again, thinking about production standpoint about how how we can tell narrative through things that are beautiful and evocative, going back to the airport terminal scene at the very start of the film. For me, especially those first person camera pushes in, and the way when she goes through the automatic doors, we actually cut to the mechanism of the doors. And then when she's in the cab and it's filmed looking inside the cab out as they're driving down the street and down what seems like an underpass that's going underneath, or some tunnel that's going underneath an overpass, and then through the woods. I also want your thoughts on this as well, but as I'm getting these jumbled thoughts together, it feels very magical, this liminal space. If this is a fairy tale, this is a sequence of her leaving the mortal world into this other supernatural world, especially those shots of the door mechanisms. It's like they're bolts being thrown open and a gateway being opened. It's like this world of the mundane is giving way to the world of the fantastical.
And the surreal, yeah. I think that's especially because after that you really get this sort of surreal framing of the setting, a lot of really noisy bold wallpapers, the repetition walking down the hallways, and of and we're talking black accenting on really deep red walls, so all this really, really striking, almost hard-hitting scenery, in that it's so bold and so repetitious that it's almost hypnotizing in a way, because it's almost a visual overload for the senses. Because it's not here's a subtly repetitive wallpaper in the background, and that's, in the newer film version has its nods to that, but it tends to be a lot more subtle about them. Again, very patterned wallpapers, but they're much, much more subdued. So the newer film takes a much more subdued approach, but still nods to some of these things that are very bold in the original film. And I think you're right. It uses these things to kind of create this transition from the normal world to another world.
And I think
this other world, and partly lent by the fact that they set theirs in kind of just a province of Germany.
Mm-hmm. I forget it's like
instead of
Freiburg
setting
or
it
Freidorf or something like that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like an area of Germany, but more isolated. Whereas, it was a very deliberate, very different move to take the approach with the newer one and set it in Berlin while the city was divided. And everything. We're kind of at the sort of epicenter of this division. What's good is in the new film, because they did choose to set it there, is that they didn't shy away from that. They leaned into it by making that the political backdrop. But that they used that instead of, I think where the original film isolates the school by setting it apart in this more of a province area that's away from a lot of things. And so that's why they create this transition of like seeing the door things, the door mechanisms, something to kind of create a visual transition from the normal world to the other world. This film, the newer one, uses the contrast of that world to kind of create this sort of emphasize this insular community that is sort of sheltered, that has created their own insular shelter from everything going on outside of them.
Also, it just hit me too. I was remembering some of your comments last night, like when you talk about like the writing that's on the wall and that one shot.
Oh yeah, you saw me ranting because I'm like, yes. Wait, that's Hebrew. That's Hebrew.
Yeah. There's Hebrew. There's Hebrew on the wall. There's Latin, and again, and even before that, like the way she gets in there is she figures out the secret that the girl who gets murdered at the start of the film talks about, the secret eye of the iris. And
turn the blue iris.
And it hits me, it's them doing that again for the way, like, she's already in the supernatural world, but she's not into its deepest depths. But then they do this transition again through, like, the ritual of opening the secret door with the iris. And, like, that room that tunnel-like room she's going through, like, it's basically incantations of various things literally written on the walls that's bringing her into the depth of the coven.
Yeah. So it's definitely, it's very layered, and I think that's where what the the original Suspiria excels at is using visual narrative. It's not necessarily carried by the actors or the dialogue or the script, because as we know, as we've kind of established, there's a bit of a disjoint there because of the way most productions were at the time with ADR. But what it does well, and I think why it still continues to resonate with people and stand out, is because they really leaned into that visual atmosphere.
It's a beautiful nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. And it's that surrealism, that almost dreamlike, nightmarish-esque thing, and juxtaposing these beautiful scenes, but making them just discomforting enough, either because of the way it's repeated or what is seen repeated again. Really, really bold, contrasting colors, like, the red hallways with the black crown molding on them and all of this stuff that's really, really stark and really redundant. So it makes the scene really, really visually kind of harsh, but also beautiful in the sense that, especially in the sense that, if you were walking down that hallway, you would just sort of be in awe. But it's also like, something's not quite right here. So like, when she's when Susie's walking down the hallway, down that particular hallway, and hears noise, and in the other room, in this like little butchery kitchen, are these two basically identical looking and dressed, very stereotypical German women, honestly. They seem very stereotypical of sort of, butch German lady, with cleavers sitting there cackling with each other over whatever it is they're chopping up, which feels very ominous. And even before the two women think they hear something and now leave the room to go hunt down whatever it is they're hearing, it feels very ominous when juxtaposed with this contrast. It's like this accent on this sort of uncomfortably beautiful hallway because it's so bold.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's that little hint of something that just edges it further into the discomfort realm.
Oh, man.
So it's, yeah. On that note, though, it's funny because
I'm having even more, like, it's clicking with me even more now as the pieces are falling into place now. It's like, I kind of walked away being like, that was less impressive than I thought it was going to be, but now as we talk about this whole thing, it's like, wait a second, now I see what it's doing and why it stood the test of time all this time, even if the spoken narrative isn't really there.
I think if it weren't for the visual element, Suspiria probably would have kind of been a story lost to time.
Definitely.
In terms of movies. I think we can go from there. It kind of segues us into the other aspect of beauty, which is atmosphere.
Yes.
Which I think all three of us have talked about in context. I kind of want to reroute us a little bit to the world of games, and we sort of touched a little bit on one part of this franchise before, but I think it is worth bringing up of Silent Hill, a franchise that is noted for atmosphere. Although I'm open to other games too, but I think we've all been in agreement that Silent Hill was a standout even when the first one came out for using atmosphere to drive the horror. And there's something beautiful in the atmosphere too. It's that element of it. Visually, it kind of visually is neutral and haunting, and then you get this nefarious, things with it.
I need to double check this because I think part of the reason that Silent Hill, the original, and it's lasted throughout all these is a atmospheric and thematic element, the fog and everything. I think, like, going back to Suspiria and the way it is. The material product of Italian filmmaking production at the time. Like, you're on a PlayStation at the time with the original Silent Hill. And, at the time, that's the big new game in town. This is the next step in graphics and in processing and what you can do. You can really do three-dimensional spaces in a way you could not even on the Super NES at the time. Like the closest you had there was like Star Fox, and that was pushing the hardware and pushing the additional Super FX chip to their limits. But it's like, even then, with the PlayStation as it is at the time, there's limitations. And one of them, if memory serves, is, draw distance. So, if memory serves, the fog is itself a basically engineered concession, like an engineered device to help disguise draw distance. And they incorporate it into, like, the theme and narrative and presentation in that way.
Yeah. It really, it creates tension in an area that maybe, if they hadn't used it, it wouldn't otherwise be there because, you see this far and that's just it. Whereas this uses it to create a sense of forced unknowing, even if mechanically the game wouldn't have been able to give you the information anyways.
Yeah. Because
so it sort of uses what could have been a weakness to its advantage.
It's like we see this in Silent Hill 2 as well on the HD collections back on the 360 at the time, because those did not properly institute the fog effects, so you can see what parts of the game look like without it. Like the scenes around Toluca Lake, the lake just kind of stops.
Yeah. Yeah.
And thinking about it, and I worry I'm droning on too much about this at the time. Like, if memory serves, like, Silent Hill is kind of leapfrogging its other survival horror peers at the time, because I think that's all being done as full 3D environments instead of 3D characters and interactable assets on 2D pre-rendered backgrounds to create the illusion of 3D space.
Yeah. think so. I'd have to go back and look at like kind of game development, because I think Silent Hill, the original Silent Hill, was shortly after. I may be wrong here. I think it was shortly after the first Resident Evil game. Because the Resident Evil games were kind of the first ones that I think. I was reading it. It looks like Silent Hill began development in 1996. Now Resident Evil was released in 1996, so they were very close together. And I would say graphically, Silent Hill is just a little bit ahead of Resident Evil.
Yeah. Let's see. Releases in '99, so.
Okay, yeah. And I think you see a lot where it worked off of what Resident Evil kind of did with horror, what you can do with horror, and it took it further, and also did the thing, like I said, used challenges in the limitations of what you could do, and went, well, instead of treating this as a challenge, we use this as an opportunity to build a world in which you don't even see that as a challenge or a limitation. And the fog has become so... I mean, I love when I see people post it's a Silent Hill morning out.
Yep.
I love even more when cosplayers...
with it.
Yeah. I love even more when cosplayers take full advantage and go, it's a Silent Hill morning, don their pyramid head and go run out into the fog and take pictures. One of these days, I hope to see one of these happen in the wild, if only for the fact that it would be so fucking terrifying to be walking around in fog and suddenly see a pyramid head out of nowhere.
Oh, God.
That's just a cosplay, even though all it really is a cosplayer going,
yeah. It's like
it's just overexcited cosplayers. But I'm like, if you don't understand the context, it's fucking scary.
It's like even to this day, like, so many times over the years I've woken up to really foggy mornings at times. Like, they're not the most common thing around here, but like on the days that like you get that pea soup thick fog, it's like all the years of playing those games, my brain goes, oh fuck, I'm just staying in the house, I'm not going outside. I know I'm being silly and ridiculous, but here's what my brain's been conditioned to associate this type of fog with.
Fog and air raid sirens.
And crackling radios. Fog and air raid
sirens. Crackling radios not so much, but air raid sirens, definitely, especially because variations of that siren are still used. Like when I lived in North Dallas area, the North Dallas County area, that they would use a siren system, like a citywide siren system, but it was used for tornado alert. Because we were right on the south edge of Tornado Alley. So, and as a result of it being used for tornado alerts, they would conduct a monthly test. So once a month, suddenly would hear basically this air raid-like siren going off for a few minutes. And it was like, oh. Even more ominous was the time a tornado actually rolled through, and I realized I could still hear the siren over it. It was like, well, I guess the siren works, because I'm hearing it, only this time there's a storm tearing through the neighborhood just outside as I'm sitting in a bathtub with Seamus in my lap and a blanket that I can yank over us for added protection while I've also got the shower curtain closed. So my bathroom had no windows, but it was like I also lived on the top floor, so it was called going downstairs is going to take too much time and I have no place to shelter downstairs, but I can sit in the bathtub, close the shower curtain, and then pull a blanket over us, and we're at least a little bit sheltered.
I don't like tornadoes. I don't.
Yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, Dave, what are your thoughts? I know you've been.
That's Silent Hill.
I even Atmosphere, because I know. Because I know Silent Hill. That's the one that stands out to me the most in Atmosphere. But I'm curious also if there are other games that kind of lean into that, because I think it's something games especially lean into.
I mean, Atmosphere and Beauty, it's video games. It's a little difficult to find those.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, not too many people explored that kind of blend when it comes to video games.
Yeah,
at least from what I've seen.
It feels like in gaming, when you do horror, you try to go with the like you don't embrace beauty as the thing to create unease. You go with the dark, the threatening, the intimidating.
They do a
So-
different
Spike.
type of atmosphere than Silent Hill, I think, has really cornered itself on.
Mhm.
So I'll give a couple of examples of stuff that I think would be kind of close. One that I think fits more towards like the Silent Hill thing and like a beautiful vibe despite the horrors within is the Blasphemous games.
Oh,
The music
I
is
actually-
incredibly beautiful. The art style is incredibly beautiful. And you can see
Yeah.
all the gorgeous and wonderful stuff that's going on in that. But
I
it's
agree.
horror. There's
Well,
a
I
lot of
mean-
horrific shit going on.
Well, even the fact that, you know, the evil, and I remember you brought this up in our villain countdown, the miracle. It
Yeah.
frames a lot of horrifying, terrible things, but it frames them through what are traditionally considered,
Religious worship.
religious worship, and essentially to a lot of people, good things.
Yeah.
And in that regard, it sort of becomes an analysis of
ooh,
kind of the dangers behind these beautiful things.
ooh,
Yeah.
things
The
clicking.
good that hurts. One that I will say is kind of less so. I'm kind of leaning into it a little more with like the obsession driving force of things is Simulacra 2, which is an FMV game where like the Simulacra series, you find a phone that belonged to somebody who is missing, and you have to use detective stuff to kind of figure out who did it, what happened, and all that. Simulacra 2, there's a few different characters that you follow, and they're all involved in different ways in marketing scamming. And the fact that they're driven by obsession, and they're driven to status, which includes like a certain look and certain kind of beauty, handsomeness, whatever you want to call it. And this drive pushes them towards something that is a horrific end. And in a way, depending on the stuff that you do, you determine who dies
Oh shit.
in a lot of ways. It's pretty good. There's multiple endings. There's like 4 endings. I believe each simulacra has like 4 endings. And this one in particular, it sticks out because I think in part because of all the other stuff I said, but also because like the marketing stuff, like MLMs and whatnot, like I'm sure that a lot of older people have heard of Avon, the
Oh,
Avon
yeah.
company.
I
They
still
are multi.
My grandmother
Avon.
bought stuff from Avon all the time.
Yep.
I've known people
They
who
are-
I've known people who sold for Avon. Mary Kay and Avon have both
Yep.
been around a
They are
long time.
multi-level marketing schemes.
I'm 90%
Uh,
sure my wallet
they-
is probably from Avon.
Also,
they
Pampered
take
Chef
advantage
is
of
another
people.
one. Pampered
Yep.
Chef is another one.
So in that sense, it's also horror. Like it's horror based on obsession and based on status and trying to elevate oneself. A little more in the vein of something like, say, American Psycho, but there's a degree that involves beauty as well because you're doing social
Yeah.
marketing, which is what it kind of also leans into is like social marketing, how you look, how many followers you have, who follows you,
Yeah.
etc., etc.
It's about
so-
networking through kind of popularity is what they're all about doing is like talk to your friends. Sort of it's a very nefarious of get your friends to buy into this and then they get their friends to buy into this and you get
Yeah.
perks the more you do, and it seems
Viral
innocuous and
sales?
harmless, but then it gets and I mean, and this is as somebody who, you know, was even like a Pampered Chef seller for a while, and then I realized I hated this type of thing and I didn't really like it because it was sort of trying to force people I knew to buy things, which just felt weird. And I'm like, if I'm going to work in sales, I'm just going to work in sales.
Yeah.
And not MLMs, because this feels very Bleh.
Predatory?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It did. And it was also like, and made it incredibly uncomfortable for me. Because it was just like, this is giving me anxiety of how uncomfortable this is. I don't like style and kind of what the way they want you to do things. And I'm like, you know, whereas I could go to a sales event, like when I was running my own business and run a sales table, I'm like, That I'm perfectly happy to. Somebody comes by and says, I like this, but I can't afford it. That's fine. Then you're not my customer. But, like, let's host a party where I sit here and infomercial shit to you. You know, and some of the stuff, it was like, okay, yeah, I was a seller for a little while. I could, you know, because I signed up and bought a thing, I got a whole bunch of product from them because it was all because this is how we make you this. And I'm like, well, I got some stuff that would have cost me a lot more money to buy it one-off, and I got it for a much greater discount. Great. Yeah. Actually, most of that stuff I don't even have anymore. You know, I'm like, nah, skip that. I'm going to go get my stainless steel stuff over here. You know, fuck that shit, I'm out. It's not lucrative. It's more of a trap.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, and it's the few who do really well in it, okay, but for all the people that get sucked in and don't go anywhere with it, that's a lot more people that get sucked into going nowhere.
They're the bait on the hook.
They're close to the top. If they're succeeding, they have a whole lot of downline.
And my question really is are you actually succeeding, or are you
if you like being a predator?
Yeah. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No, thank you. I got out of that again. If I was going to be doing sales, I'd much rather be doing what I was doing in like my early career or later career, which is more overt. Yes, I am selling you something, and if you want to buy it, you buy it. And I'm not here to try to convince you to buy it, per se. I want to sell you what you need. I am much more an adherent to that philosophy, which is, what is it you're looking for? And let me see if I can find that for you, but I might not be the best fit. And if that's the case, then you're not the customer for me.
Yeah.
So, that's how you get sales that don't get returned, because then people actually buy what they need and not what you make them think they need.
Yeah.
Which is what MLMs do. They make you think you need it. You don't.
Yeah. You know, Dave
sidetrack.
Dave mentioning
Simulacra.
He did mention Simulacra, but mentioning Blasphemous remind me of another Konami game about where atmosphere and beauty beauty is intertwined in atmosphere to create the emotional experience as well. And I hadn't really thought about this before until now, but Castlevania games, particularly from Symphony of the Night onward.
Yeah. Something that's really beautiful.
The the Gothic architecture, Dracula's castle, yes, there are creepy, grotesque, grimy areas of the Castlevania, the name of the castle itself, but also it is a stunningly beautiful and intricate Gothic castle throughout most of the games it appears in. And one of the things that hits me there is I was trying to think, well, why is that intimidating? Why is that scary? And it makes me think, well, what do we subconsciously pick up on if we're in a place like that? If we're in a keep or a castle that is so intricate and so beautiful, so well designed, all the work that goes into this. And what I realize is it tells you, even if you're not conscious of it, that something powerful had to make this, something greater than you, and you are even though they're action games more than they're horror games, you are still intruding upon this space. And so what it is you are this one lone intruder encroaching upon this space that you know is greater than you, and trying to vanquish it, this thing of the night.
Yeah. Well, I think it speaks to an element, again, of kind of knowing about something versus seeing it, and the juxtaposition of knowing what was behind it versus seeing it, and it meets in this sort of hauntingly. You made me think with that of, to some extent, the sense people get sometimes, if they go to, say, the Vietnam Memorial in DC. Now, that's a smaller scale version of it, but what really occurred to me with, of it, but of, the kind of the power and the weight behind it, of here's something that objectively is, kind of an art piece, but what's on it are the names of people who've died. And that carries with it its own kind of implied power even more to a greater extent, people talking about, frankly, when I've heard folks, like the photos that, I feel like there was a photographer that went into like Chernobyl, in like the last 10 years and took pictures and, and kind of snuck in and like took pictures. And there is something beautiful about the way nature has reclaimed the area and nature persists in the area, but there's also something haunting because we know the events behind that area. Again, I think of sometimes when I hear people talking about visiting places like Auschwitz, of by itself, out of context, it's just this place, an old building, older architecture, but knowing what went on there and how horrifying what was happening there, I think it speaks to this. I get why people, I get why some people and, cultures have sometimes believed that a place could be infused with bad energy because of things that took place there.
I mean,
because it's when you know it, it changes the tone of what you see there because it lends this sort of, it's almost like your mind trying to quantify what it knows of the place versus what you see of the place.
So I am more these days a skeptic than I am an embracer of the supernatural, but there are, like, especially when you bringing up Auschwitz and you bringing up like the energy and vibes of a place. I think I had to have told you and Dave this story before, but our mutual friend Aaron and I once went to the Holocaust Museum in the capital here. And I think I've told you this story before. It's like, obviously nothing bad as far as I'm aware. I mean it's still, it was in Richmond, so I mean there's still the legacy of slavery there, but it's obviously not what the Holocaust Museum is about. But it's like walking through that place, and there are some items that are on display that I believe are from the camps. But you walk through there, and I mean, maybe you can chalk it up to just they designed a really well done museum to create this psychological impression. But I swear to God, walking into the first actual exhibit room, the air changes.
Yeah.
I really mean that. It's like the only other time I've ever felt that, and I'll mention that in a second, but it's like, and just walking through there is a sense of, there is an almost palpable air of pain and tragedy and sadness and loss that was overwhelming at times as I went through that museum. And it did not just feel like it was the design of the exhibits doing it. It felt like there was, I mean, I feel weird saying this. I worry to some degree if by saying this am I making light of it or what, but it was almost as if there was an aura of it that I was picking up on. And it's like I've never felt that in any other place except for one place. And do you want, like, that place was the Chantilly Air and Space Annex for the Smithsonian. Specifically when I went up to see one specific thing, a very controversial piece in the collection at the Air and Space Annex there. They have the Enola Gay. They have the Enola Gay on display. The plane that dropped the A-bomb.
Yeah, I think
that is the closest thing I've ever felt to something like that again. And it's haunting. It's like maybe it was something I was bringing to the table myself emotionally there, but I don't know. Shit's weird.
Well, I mean, that was a real thing that happened to over 6 million people. That's not something you just pass off unless you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the fact that, and again, I think it speaks to what happens in our minds, I think happens in folks' minds, is part of it is the element of knowing what's behind it.
Mhm.
And I say appreciate, not in the sense of like, oh, that's nice, but appreciating the weight of what took place, the history of what took place.
Yeah.
You know, of the loss, of the costs, of the sacrifices, of the evil, you know, and also, you know, and even the heart that came out from those who did come away, from the stories you hear from survivors, from people who walked through there or saw it or have personal accounts, because, you know, from other family members. And I think when you have that knowledge against what you see, it adds a weight to what you see. And if what you see is not necessarily something that looks conventionally bad, like objectively, if you saw it and just went, oh, it's just a plane.
Yeah.
But when you see that, you know, with that weight behind it, it creates something that it sort of, I think that's what people are feeling when they talk about feeling an aura of a weight, because it adds a concrete element. It's something in front of you, around you. I mean, I definitely have felt, you know, on a milder form, in a way, there's a part of me that's felt some of that weight walking around Los Angeles. Though for me, it's not a dark weight. But when I realized, when it really occurred to me one day while I was sitting at a restaurant with my aunt and two of my uncles, and this was only earlier last year, and one of them made the comment at this restaurant that, of course, has been around in LA for a long time. He goes, "Oh yeah, these jugs up here, you know, there's one with my brother's and your dad's and my name on it because our parents got one for us." And it was like something that over the years people could pay to have a jug, like an old Chianti, I think, something jug, like, you know, sort of like donate money, and then they'll hang it from the ceiling, and there's these jugs hanging all around the restaurant for it. And he goes, yeah, there's one for your dad and I. There's one for mom and dad, as in my grandparents, who I never met. And to me, the weight it added to that place of realizing this isn't just a restaurant. This is somewhere where my grandparents sat. This is a place my grandparents came to, that my dad and his brother, his siblings as children came to. It created a weight and sense in the place, and a sense of history that was grounded in the fact that I was sitting in the place. And I think that's part of what people feel when they go to these places and they talk about feeling this bad energy. And it's part of it is how dark how dark it is, the things that took place there. With the fact that we're standing in the place, it creates a sense of grounding. Because it's around you, and in a way it's, and then when you add to that the juxtaposition of something that if you just walked by, if I had just gone to that restaurant and never had dinner at that restaurant with like my aunt and my uncles, I would have never, and nobody had mentioned this is where we came with mom and dad all these years ago, I would have never seen that place in that regard. But because I know it's also a place that like my grandparents went to, and my grandparents died well before I was born. Like if my granddad on my dad's side was alive now, he'd be like 120 years old. They were much older. So I've never, like, I'm not even closely removed from when they passed. They died well before I was around. It creates more meaning to that place because I'm walking through a place that they walked through. And I think that's some of what people talk about when, like, they visit these places that have such deep, dark histories to them, or have been the sites of such horrible atrocities, you know, or seeing the Enola Gay and knowing what it was responsible for. You know, it's not just something on paper, it's something that's real and in front of you. And I think that's what some of these films, like, or some of these films and some of these games, like, I think that's what Silent Hill kind of hits on, too, in their atmosphere, is it takes something that's kind of very innocuous at a quick glance. A town, a rural town, small town in rural America that's got fog in it. And, of course, we're not physically walking in and experiencing it in the sense that, like, you can by going to a museum or like other places. But it's familiar. It's normal to all of us. A small town with fog, okay, big whoop. What is this? But because you play a character walking around in it, and the very, very first game does very well by using the camera angle shifting to distort your perception. And the shifting of the camera angles as you're moving through create this level of distortion now that you start to go, something's not right, even though this is just an empty town, like an abandoned town in fog. Yeah. That shouldn't seem that crazy. Maybe a little weird and spooky because it's an abandoned town, but it shouldn't be that crazy. But when the cameras start to shift and you move out of this foggy color to these more starkly contrasting, like candlelight, blood, and also seeing things where they don't belong, like a hospital gurney in a back alley. I think that's like that is special. After the camera angles, that's like the first cue of something's not right, because why is a hospital gurney in a back alley?
And then it's like everything starts becoming more chain link, and what is it we normally associate chain link fencing with? It's pinning you in, pinning you out, keeping you out, and here it is. It's guiding you
barriers,
deeper and deeper.
As
you transition through the world.
Yeah, and the world closes in because everything around you becomes dark. Your vision of what's ahead of you becomes even more narrow as it seems like the buildings loom higher and higher above you, and you go deeper, and your candlelight only takes you so far. I mean, to that extent, when you're outside in the fog, it's almost refreshing, even though the fog is equally haunting. So, and I think that's and Silent Hill utilizes that juxtaposition of normalcy and things that are normal against things that can't be explained to make you as the viewer or the player uncomfortable with the environment. And I think that's what Suspiria in 1977 was also doing with their environment. They're using these visual environments to create a sense of discomfort for the viewer that they will somewhat clarify in the characters and the actual narrative, but they really set that up through the visual. And that also makes in Suspiria's case, makes it a little more excusable that maybe the actual narrative is not quite like the physical spoken dialogue and narrative. Maybe that's not quite hitting, but the environment around it does the work for it. I say the same things of even of like, and I love the Star Wars prequel films, but I say the same things. I will say this, if you didn't have John Williams scoring those, I don't think they would have been effective. But John Williams scoring those allows you to look past other flaws in writing, because realistically, the scripts were at times felt so painfully flat.
It's like I think
when you throw John Williams scoring it, like John Williams scoring allows the scenes to carry an emotion that maybe weren't carried well through the script.
It's like one of the things that occurs to me is like, I mean, I think we take for granted how, like, these days there's so much, and then, like, I mean, obviously we are a narrative focused show. We explore narrative, we dissect narrative, we deconstruct narrative and explore it and what it does. And these days there's so much of confusing narrative with plot, I think. And I've seen others say this as well. And it's like, well, storytelling isn't just about what the plot is. Storytelling is the gestalt of all the factors that come together. So, like, as you mentioned, like, yeah, the plot is threadbare as hell in 1977 Suspiria, but it's still telling its story through all of the through all the visuals, through the editing, through all the fucking goblin music. That's not an adjective, folks. The band that does the music for a lot of Argento's films is called Goblin. By the way, he suggested.
And that movie uses scoring very differently from the 2017 one, and both of them are very effective.
Yeah.
Very
like,
different, but very effective ways of supporting the story.
It's like I think I mentioned to you last night. It's like, this should feel like a Sonic Assault, but instead I feel like I'm listening to a Siren song. And it's a...
Yes, I remember you mentioning that.
Oh. Folks, I'm not going to
man.
subject you to Goblin and out of context in this. That would be too discordant, I think, for the show right now.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Just go watch Suspiria if you want to understand what we mean by Goblin in the context of Suspiria. It's a very deliberate move.
Yeah. As we're going on, I want to give a couple of quick shout outs to a couple things that I've wanted to check out but didn't have time. First is The Substance, starring Demi Moore.
Yeah. None of us had time to check that one out.
Yeah. Which runs more of a as far as like just on the surface what we know, a typical star who is pretty attractive, and then like she's older now, and people in Hollywood are like, well, you're too old, and so she's doing things to try to like be youthful again, which is called The Substance. And from what I have seen in the zeitgeist, it's like a younger person comes out of her like a butterfly from a cocoon for 7 days and does the thing and then goes back in, kind of like a trading kind of deal.
Yeah, I've kind of heard that there's an element of it's much darker.
Oh, it's very dark, and
yeah. I've heard good
I've
things
seen clips
about
of the
it.
ending. That is an, whoo boy, that scene is, whoo boy.
Yeah. So I want to give a shout out to that. And I want to give a shout out to a book called Rouge, which is written by Mona Awad. And it is a book where a mixed race woman, her mother dies, and in order to kind of move along, she gets wrapped up in a cosmetics industry and a cult. From what I understand. It's a satire on racism and misogyny in the cosmetics industry. Her mother is an incredibly beautiful white woman who held her to an impossible beauty standard, and she's dealing with all this stuff kind of around her while trying to, move on from her mother dying and such. I've heard there's vampires in it. Which would kind of add to some of the things that we've mentioned before. Vampires
It is called Rouge.
have a little thing with beauty and eternal beauty. It is called Rouge, yes. The cover on it is fantastic. It's simple. It's got like a vampire quality to it. Yeah. It looks really good. I hear mixed things about it, but overall I think it kind of leans to like better than not. So yeah.
I want to bring up a little shout out too to you made me think of these, Dave, of one, we didn't touch on it here, but I think we've all seen it, but it's definitely we didn't intentionally overlook it all, but Pan's Labyrinth, of another look at really there's a beauty to it, and it's terrifying. And yeah, there's more we could say on it. I think that'd be a whole other conversation. I didn't even have a chance to rewatch it. Yeah. But on that note, though, because I had not realized Del Toro was also heavily involved with Crimson Peak, but then I was looking up, I was kind of curious, is there any book in relation to this that isn't just the novelization of the film? Because I wasn't totally interested in that. But what I did find is people pointed out that there was a lot of inspiration from two books that I've added to my read list that I do want to read, which were Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier and also Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, which knowing Del...
Yeah, go ahead.
What? Well, which
No,
knowing Del Toro's involvement, I was like, oh, but I'm also very fascinated to see these stories, knowing what Crimson Peak was, but also see these stories approaching this Gothic horror storytelling, or Gothic romance storytelling, really. because maybe Crimson Peak was more the horror element, but it still has me very intrigued, especially since horror tends to be part of the gothic genre. Like if you say look at gothic storytelling as its own genre, that is a more horror area.
Yeah.
Now you had something on that.
Yeah. I've heard of Mexican Gothic before. I've seen it all the time in the bookstores, and it's on my to get list. Rebecca was one that got added to my recommend list because of my English chair. She said that I would probably really like it. So
yeah,
that one's
and
also on my to read.
And when both of them have been cited as being, it sounds like strong influences behind Crimson Peak.
Yeah.
Which, which that's kind of what piqued mine is. It's like, oh, okay. And I think it even nods back to we talked about of the cultural elements in beauty and cultural influence within when you look at beauty and horror, and we were saying Candyman is a modern gothic, and that's in its own regard too. It's also very culturally influenced. I mean, it's set in Chicago, and it's Chicago. It's very influenced by the sort of culture of Chicago and the area of Chicago in which it's set. So,
People read more.
Yes, read. Look, if it's an audiobook, that's fine. Just get yourself exposed to literature. Yeah, expose yourself to literature, folks. It's good for you.
Yeah. So I kind of want to
don't do what I do and just collect books and then collect books
read
and
them.
Collect books
it's a curse.
Oh, yeah.
It is.
So, question for y'all: what is the most beautiful horror story to you?
You took the words right out of my mouth, Dave. I was gonna ask that question.
Well, that just means great minds think alike.
They do. You get to go first because I have to think on it now.
I'm gonna fall prey to my recency bias right now, but I mean, for me, I think the most beautiful horror story I have encountered across these multiple definitions is probably Silent Hill F. It's like, it is a game that is suffuse with visual beauty. It is a game that also it turns, like we talked about before, both thematically the questions it asks and also visually to reflect this as well. It takes what is considered beautiful and shows an ugliness within it. Like, there is the visual theme or aesthetic of these red flowers everywhere, and they are not, like, they are visually beautiful, but they are also one of the most potent dangers. They create barriers that cut you off, that bind where you can go and control your movement. If you get too close to them in certain parts, they will literally ensnare you and try to pull you down. There are, I mean, as a game about, like, we talked a lot about feminism on this podcast, and it is a game that it looks specifically at like 1960s Japanese uh uh gender politics, and that is a very conservative time. Dave, you touched on the Stepford Wives, and it dovetails in strongly with that, and I think it's a and I think there is a tendency to think we have, like, oh, it's a different country. Oh, it's an entirely different decade, almost a century ago by now. But we see that these things have not died. We have seen that these impulses of control and subjugation are still with us and are still ensnaring people around the world, in our own countries and other countries. I wanted to bring it up earlier, but I didn't know quite how to. But, like, I mean, look at, like, the shit going on with misogyny in South Korea lately. When you look at that, it is a horrific endemic that is going through men in society right now to an
Yeah.
almost paranoid extent. And
And through
so,
democratic societies,
yeah.
the
And it's,
societies that are supposed to be like, oh, we don't have that problem.
and
Cough,
it's like,
cough,
oh, we
cough.
do have those problems. And it's like, but so, like, and it's like, and Silent Hill F also, like, it's very much about, like, taking what was these things that have been viewed as beautiful, like getting married, all the ornamentation, all the ceremony, all these rituals that are supposed to be uplifting and bringing you into this place, and you see them like, well, what about all the things that it does to you and takes away from you, especially particularly like, and I've been talking with a friend about this, so I want to like kind of navigate this thread, this needle here is, it's like, it's not necessarily saying that marriage is bad, but it's like we are talking about marriage within hardcore patriarchal societies. The kind of things that even here in America, people want to bring that shit back, where women don't have their lives, where they are little more than the property, not even necessarily of the husband. Like, without spoiling too much, you will see documents in Silent Hill F that are not from the betrothed, but from the larger family. And
Yeah.
like, especially when you get into these more powerful families, and I don't just mean in Japan, I mean in America too. When you get
I mean,
into these
Handmaid's Tale is basically let's look at America if
exactly,
patriarchy, the trend patriarchy took control,
exactly.
and now you're only as good as how capable of bearing children you are.
It's like, even if your husband is nice, even if he is a nice guy, even if he's not going to beat you or yell at you or threaten you, he's still with you're still bound within the system to him. And there are almost, and especially as you get into these families that are stock full into this shit, they're not going to let you escape that. They're going to want you to be in your place, and they're going to pressure him as well to make sure you stay in your place. And so I think, like, in regards, like, it is a beautiful game, and it is a game about, again, I will make this comparison, the Luciferian beauty of these things, the superficial beauty that says, look at how grand, look at the grandeur here, look at the beauty, look at the aesthetic that is so pleasing and awe-inspiring, and it fills you with something. But then what is the core hidden beneath that beauty that beats within it, the rotten, writhing, even hateful, spiteful heart of it? And it makes you question these things and drives you to find your own answers and your own path, even through the inevitable pain that is to come if you are to escape these systems. And it's like, it wasn't a horror movie, but there was one thing I wanted to mention earlier, if I may. I know I'm droning on, but
Go
I
for it.
do. So it's not a horror movie, but I don't know if you've seen the movie, Liz. But Dave, I know I showed it to you during a movie night years ago when we were doing the movie nights. The Utena movie. There
Yeah.
is a line that sticks with me always and forever, and I think it ties into beauty rather well. And that is when Utena and Anthe are trying to finally escape the world that has effectively imprisoned them, represented as the school. Anthe's brother appears on the road. The road is whipping by underneath them, but they both move as if they are on this different plane entirely. He walks up slowly, almost floating up to the treads of this glittering, gorgeous, beautiful fucking castle that is, again, literally on tank treads, blazing over this path out of this world. And the point he makes to them is, you have to go back. Back there, you can be princesses, you can be beautiful princesses. All you have to do is be a living corpse. And that line sticks with me forever in all the multitudes of what it means to live within these. I promise you, you will be beautiful. You will be this desired. You will be this desired being. You will have all the riches and wants you could ever possibly want. But remember, you're living, but you're still a corpse.
Basically, death becomes her.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty much walking corpses by the end, held together by,
And the
tape
question I
and
would
glue.
and the question I'd ask there is like, are they happy? Are they actually living lives they want? Or are they like desperately cobbling this thing together because of what they think they need in order to thrive and survive, even though it's literally killed and destroyed them at this point?
I think that's the note of the movie, because I've seen the final scene of the movie, and I think, or at least I've seen the scene where they leave the church and fall down the stairs, and I think that's kind of the point. Is it's like, look at all of this stuff and where it led them. It just
Sorry if I'm
destroyed
getting a
them.
little emotional here. Oof, wow, that's
it's a lot. I think beauty, we underestimate how powerful it is as a part of storytelling.
And how important it is today, especially.
Yeah. And how much it resonates with us. I think that's why horror is so, and why I'm glad we looked at beauty in horror, because it's more than just, oh, this movie's making a comment on that. They use, horror in a way has been able to approach challenges with the idea of beauty in a more nuanced way by showing that beauty can be just that, but it can be more than that, and it can be terrifying, and it can be wonderful. Annihilation, I think, sums it up really well with Portman's character being like, this is horrifying because it doesn't make sense, but also objectively, you're looking at the scene around her going, this is just gorgeous. So.
As for me, I want so badly to save the Blasphemous games, but I can't.
Then what is the most beautiful then?
Well, the reason I can't is because I don't think that's what we need. And I think there's a difference. If the world was in a vacuum and there was nothing like hard or massive going on or something necessary, I would say the Blasphemous games without a second thought. But given the world that we're in right now, and given the importance of things like art and movies and beauty and all that, I'm going to say the Stepford Wives. And I know that we had a very lengthy conversation about it that led to some very important and dark things. And honestly, I think that we are due for a remake of the Stepford Wives that reflects more closely to our modern day world and what's going on in it. There are other movies that do stuff kind of like it a little bit, like Companion with Jack Quaid, wherein his spouse, you find out, is a robot, is an AI who he controls and tells what to do and such, while all the while she's trying to kill him. But you find out all the depth and reasons why.
Like, without spoiling too much, it's punk in that way, correct?
Yeah, it's punk. Like the actual honest definition of what punk is. But the Stepford Wives is my choice because of how imperative it is today and how important stories like that are today. So it's not the hero that we want, it's the hero that we need. That is my choice.
Yeah. For me, and I was thinking about this while you both were going over it. My instinct almost automatically, just because we had just been talking about it, was to say the newer Suspiria, because even just with the time away from it, the more I've thought on it, the more it's grown on me. I'm not actually sure I'd put that at, to me, the most beautiful horror story. I think to me it comes back to Candyman, which was kind of unexpected for me. And it's more not because like I was expecting to be bad or this. I knew from what you had told me, Dave, that you genuinely liked it. I just didn't have a lot of perception about it. It's one of those horror stories out there that, unlike others like Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, where kind of the concepts have sort of permeated societal culture and conversation and pop culture, Candyman has kind of stayed aloof. And I think I understand why now, because this story was doing much more than just it was doing far more than any of the slashers are doing. It's doing a much more in-depth character look. I do want to read the Clive Barker book that it's based on, especially given that, the movie took the direction of making the Candyman, of casting Tony Todd, and so it lends its own experience to the story by adding that experience to it. I find it to be, from the perspective especially of now, and I find it to be very much an element of holding up a mirror. I can't remember the woman's name in it, but there is to me something.
Virginia Madsen's the actor's name.
Yeah, whoever she was, whoever Virginia played. But I find it to me that there is something very. It speaks to a lot of maybe the desire of being an ally versus acting like an ally but not being one. And to me, I find it fascinating that this character spends so much time trying to be like, I'm the good person, I'm not really bad, and you're like, and you as the viewer know, yeah, she's not actually the one, doesn't seem to be the one committing these murders. He's committing them and then leaving her in a position that leaves her seem like a crazy person. But that ultimately, I think her truly redemptive moment is the one that she almost isn't, that is the one that she dies doing. And it's the one that at that point, she sees the baby. It's not about perception. It's not about this or that. It's that this baby is going to die and does not deserve to die. And I think it's that abandonment of trying to preserve her own reputation and let me just do this one thing right. That is, to me, that's kind of the turn of the character saying, this isn't about me anymore. This is about saving this child. In that moment, that kind of points to sort of performative allyship versus being an actual ally, which is something I think we encounter a lot, especially with influencers. I've seen influencers call it out, and we've seen it a lot with social media of being performative versus actually being supportive. Hilariously, I just watched one of the South Park episodes that speaks to this, and I think, Stan has the revelation finally at the movie. He goes, I don't get it, and where he runs and he's like, I don't get it. That's the point. I don't get it. I have no perspective on this. It is impossible for me to have perspective on this. And he keeps sitting there going, I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. And he runs to Tolkien and he goes, I don't get it. And he goes, now you get it. And it's sort of, it's a tongue-in-cheek way of going, yeah, it's a tongue-in-cheek way of going about it, but the idea being that there are experiences that, you can be supportive, but you don't get it. And it's okay not to, but you need to acknowledge that you don't understand it. And I think Candyman speaks to that in a way. I also do like realizing that, the realization that it stood out to me when I watched it, the theme music. There is a beauty to it. I mean, it is sort of a gothic romance subverted by the fact that it is sort of a gothic romance of its own. And to me, that lends a level of beauty in it.
Yeah. I would recommend the second one than the one that came out not too long ago.
I want to watch that one too. That's on my list. I'd wanted to see the original first, because for a long time it was just the newer one that was on streaming. And now that I've seen the original, I'm like, okay, now it's okay to go watch the other Candyman. So, but I think there's something to, I will lastly shout out that line of "Be My Victim," of the way Tony Todd utters it. He utters it the way you would say, like, "Be my lover" to somebody.
Yeah.
And yet he says, "Be my victim." And God damn, that man has a way of being sultry at the same time as being menacing.
Rest in
Rest in
peace, Tony
peace.
Rest
Todd.
in peace, Tony Todd.
So,
Will be missed.
Why did he have
with
to get
that,
taken?
You know, if you ask him, he would probably not respond to you unless it was in a cryptic way, and then you would have to watch out for any kind of logging trucks on your way back home. So since we've asked that question, I think we are pretty cozy with the idea of kind of putting a little flag on here and saying that we're wrapping this one up. So
I think we have really thoroughly covered the topic today.
yeah. So Liz, where can our Voidwalkers find you?
Well, Voidwalkers, you can find me and my lovely canine potato named Seamus here at twitch.tv/LadyHyacinth57. That is Lady Hyacinth is in the flower and the number's 57. A lot of Resident Evil streaming, though lately, probably not by the time this episode is released, but exactly as we're recording this, I've been playing a lot of Donkey Kong. But we'll be returning to Resident Evil with maybe a side stop at some Silent Hill. So maybe by the time this episode comes out, I'll be on Silent Hill. So, now, Sheriff, where can the Voidwalkers find you at?
Well, y'all can find me at twitch.tv/sheriff_Flynn. I know it's been kind of quiet there. I've had a lot going on in my life. I've said it before, been engaged, so trying to get that all sorted. Currently trying to get my online classes up and operational. So
you have made a few guest appearances on mine as a commentator, just audio guest appearances as a commentator, and that's been fun. As have you.
I've also been, I've also been trying to think of. I've also been trying to think of different games to play, because ever since I stopped playing Dead by Daylight, I've been kind of lost in the woods trying to find something.
So, folks, if you have a suggestion of something for Sheriff, we'd love to hear it.
Sure. I think I found something, but we'll kind of see how it goes. But we'll keep that one close to the chest. I also have a variety of other games that I've got that I haven't played yet that I might do. I might, when I feel more grounded in like being able to stream more, I'll probably have 2 days that I stream. One that's focused on like a more dedicated game that I want to do, and then like one for just variety, playing around with stuff that I haven't played with, is what I'm thinking.
The goofing play.
Yeah. So E, what about you? Where can our Voidwalkers find you?
Well, at some point I finally fixed my YouTube name issue, so that doesn't have the random numbers after it anymore. So you can find me both on Twitch and the VODs up on YouTube, along with some of the other bullshit that I throw together sometimes for fun nonsense or for Giant Bomb memes, the Giant Bomb video game community. You can find those. You can find me at those various places. Twitch at Lanzalencia and YouTube at Lanzalencia. So yay! By the time you're hearing this, honestly, we're probably entering December by the time this comes out. So I'm already, as we record this right now, I'm already starting to think of like, what Christmassy games can I do? And that might involve Parasite
Santa's
Eve
Little
1.
Santa's Little Helper scenario in Plague Inc.
Yes. Oh God. Oh, I don't think
I did that
Plague
once. I'll
Inc.
probably do it
in
again.
Years.
Oh,
But yeah,
amazing.
it's like Parasite Eve. It's a Christmas game in the same sense that Die Hard's a Christmas movie.
I love it.
So,
I love
yes.
it. By the way, folks, if
alright.
you have any thoughts on what we talked about here, thoughts, perspectives, if you have another story, movie, book, game, what have you, that you think that you have some thoughts on it related to beauty and horror, or thoughts on our thoughts, please drop us a comment, or you can email us at theconfabulators@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. In the meantime,
Please fill our email.
Review. What?
I said, please fill our email.
Yes, fill it with more than automated spam from
Yes.
the things we have to have accounts with.
Yes.
But in the meantime, folks, also please rate and review, follow, share with your friends, We love to get more feedback, and we also just love to hear from you. You know, spread the word, tell your friends.
True.
We are going to be coming up on the end of this season soon.
Yeah.
Soon, not right yet, but we will be coming up on it soon, and so spread the word. We've already started talking about next year's season, so we're excited to have you all along for the ride.
And don't forget,
It's gonna be fun.
occasionally we do have things going on live over on Twitch at the Confabulation Station over there.
Yes.
Yep. A lot of good things there.
And I'd bring the potato up to say goodbye, but last time I did that, he knocked over my entire computer. So we're not going to do that.
Yep.
He says hi.
So, all you beautiful Voidwalkers out there, if you need to know what a confabulator is, ask your beautician or a person who sells makeup.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what their names are.
You can ask your hairstylist, your ask your cosmetologist. So whether it's the one at the local where you get your nails done, get those mani-pedis in, good for your nails, or ask your hairstylist when you get that haircut. They'll tell you. And if they don't tell you, well, you can guess.
All right, till next time, y'all.
Later.
Bye.
The Confabulators is hosted by Dave Bockenkamp and Liz Strauss. Editor is E.W. Klein. Theme music, Oh Heavens, is by Cassidy B., composer and artist. Found at cbrva.cardd.co.